The story begins with a white-haired lady sitting drinking tea. At this time, everyone in the hall is gossiping about her. The girls say that this is the same lady that the prince was running after. She caused such a commotion, and now she is being wooed to another man. The ladies think that this is such impudence. Her chosen one is Duke Rodnane of Gels. The women begin to discuss the Duke and say that he truly has a divine appearance. Just look at his dark eyes, like the night sky, and hair like silk. They wonder if that villainess could be threatening him, and then they quiet down a little because she is a talented magician, and the girls are afraid that she will send a curse on them. Lady Yvonne Argentros is the name of the main character. She is the youngest daughter of the Argentros family, a mage and a famous villainess. Rodnane Gels, Duke of the Northern Lands of Gels. He asks Yvonne if she feels comfortable. The girl answers yes, but then corrects herself by saying no. She thinks the Duke is so amazing that her heart is beating too fast. The villain is trying to pull herself together. Yvonne looks at the guy and asks him to listen. She apologizes for saying this at the first meeting and asks the Duke to lend her money. Rodnane and everyone around him simply have no words. The girl always wanted to become not the main character of the novel, but a villain. Even if they scold her and point fingers at her, she will still remain with the villainess who was born into a rich family. Yvonne didn't want to have a life full of troubles and toxic people where her life would end in such a pathetic way. The maid pulls the girl out of her thoughts and asks if her mistress has any appetite. The main character realizes where she is now and screams that everything is delicious. How can you lose your appetite with such a sumptuous breakfast? Yvonne began to live the life she dreamed of, reincarnated in the body of the rich villainess of the novel. She is very happy because her dream has come true. Fantasy novel, The Light of Cordelia. Lady Yvonne Argentros is a cruel and immoral villainess. Having learned about the engagement of his beloved Adrian with the main character of the novel, Cordelia, she made a contract with the devil and gained the power of darkness. The magician Yvonne became even stronger thanks to demonic power. She turned into a great dark magician and tormented the main characters. In the end, she met her end tragically by dying. But the main character cannot allow such an ending, because among all the villains of the novels that she read, she envied Yvonne more than the others. She was the youngest daughter of the Duke. Her family owned an orichalcum mine and several mines for the extraction of precious stones. They had their own trading company that sold the best magical items in the empire. And her father was the owner of a magic tower, because over the long history of the family, many magicians were noted in the family tree. Yvonne also had the same abs, an ideal figure, and unique beauty, and also abilities in magic. She's just perfection. The girl thought about how in a past life she was an orphan, lived in slums, and worked endless hours at night. Compared to this, Yvonne's life is too much for her. Garden. That moment, the girl's task is to be happy for the two main characters and their happy ending. And one has only to bypass this mine in the form of the main characters, and Yvonne will never become a dark magician. The maid turns to her mistress and says that the Duke has come to her. The girl jumps out of bed and sees her father. His name is Kaiser Argentros. He is the head of the family and the master of the magic tower. Yvonne's father says that he gave a probationary sentence, and the young lady did not repent a bit for him. He asks his daughter what she is up to again. Before the main character got into Yvonne's body, she did something terrible. She threw a bomb at the place where the main characters were meeting. There were no casualties, but throwing a bomb was too much. The girl thinks that it would be better if she were reincarnated before Yvonne did it. Therefore, as soon as she got here, she received a punishment that consisted in the fact that the girl had to sit in her room without leaving. She could eat whatever she wanted and lie on the bed whenever she wanted. The main character thought that if this is a punishment, then let it last forever. Yvonne is already wondering if she ate too much and rested too much. She apologizes to her father, says that she will be quiet and think about her actions. But the father does not believe his daughter and asks if she can sit quietly in one place. After this, he calls the adjutant. The girl thinks that they want to kick her out, but the head of the family tells his servant to give Yvonne the task with those documents. The girl is shocked and happy that she won't be kicked out after all, but she has no idea what kind of task this is. The servant says that it will be too difficult for the lady, because the documents related to the March branch are of course a simple task, but such a quantity for the lady. The main character is already thinking about how many documents there are and preparing for the fact that she will have to work at night here too. Her father shouts that from today, the girl will work 6 hours every day. Yvonne even rejoices at this fact. This is paradise for her, who worked 15 hours a day. Her father says he gives her at least a week to complete this task. If this time the girl runs away, he will cross her out of the family tree. The father warns his daughter to do the right thing. He leaves the room, and the main character thinks that even though there was not complete harmony, she was glad that she had a family. On the first day the girl appeared in this world, her father called her crazy. Yvonne. It seemed that he hated her. The white-haired lady tells her maid that it's great that she wasn't kicked out. She claims that she wants something sweet, and the maid says that she will bring it now. At this time, Rodnane is working with documents. His servant asks if he is reading these documents again, but Hertz says that they were just lying in the desk drawer. The ward says that, judging by the lack of news for 18 years, everything has long been forgotten there. The guy says that his father was worried until the end that he could not repay this debt. He even wrote a will so that his son would certainly fulfill his request if he returned. The servant claims that if necessary, they will right themselves, and there is no need to think too much about it. The Duke agrees, because there is no point in worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet. Ward, Zhenya speaks of her confidence that this man will not contact the Duke. Rodnane says that this is said too confidently, but the servant assures that he has a premonition that never deceives him. The guy doesn't think it's right, but he'll try to believe him. Kaiser sits at his desk and looks at the documents in shock, asking if his daughter did it. The mentee says that she suggested a good idea. The father does not believe that Yvonne could do this. The servant claims that in this way it will be possible to immediately estimate the company's monthly sales. The method of organizing square tables is a real reform. He notes that he knew that Yvonne had a lively mind since childhood, but she turned out to be so unusual. It's surprising. The Kaiser thought that his daughter would not like working with documents. He orders his personal maid Yvonne to be called. When she enters the office, she greets her master. The main character's father wants to ask the maid a question, and he asks if she has noticed anything strange in Yvonne's behavior lately, because she is closest to her and probably knows something. The maid claims that she also wanted to talk to him, because to be honest, after the master assigned punishment to his daughter, she became very depressed. Kaiser is very surprised, because before she did not react when her father scolded her. The maid continues her story and says that her mistress began to eat about half of the usual amount. The father never ceases to be surprised because his daughter has eaten 6 times a day since childhood. The maid says that she heard from other maids that the mistress cleaned up the work table in the office. Kaiser, noticing that his daughter has changed so suddenly and there must be some reason for this, he thinks that this is most likely because of the prince, because his open refusal must have shocked his daughter. The father reproaches himself for not knowing this and only scolding her. He concludes that his daughter still cannot forget the prince. Yvonne sits in her room and eats sweets. She didn't think that her Excel skills would be useful to her. The girl was worrying in vain because she thought that something serious had happened. The maid tells her master that although the white-haired lady does not show it, it seems that everything is so. Yvonne, lying on the sofa, thinks that every day would be as calm. The Kaiser, sitting with a mug of tea, still can't stop thinking about what happened. He thinks that his daughter was so much in love with the prince, and he didn't even look in her direction. Yvonne is flexible, active, has a beautiful appearance and magical abilities, and she is also the eldest daughter of the Argentros family. The father of the main character wonders what the prince was missing, because he seems to be deliberately going on a date with the illegitimate daughter of the ruler of the Mare Kingdom. The Kaiser furiously hits the table with his hand and realizes that he can completely understand his daughter. Yvonne at that time approaches the table. Seeing the actions of her father, she asks if something happened. The father replied that no, and called her to come to him quickly. The girl sat down at the table and asked if there was any problem with those documents, because she tried, but if she made a mistake, she asked her to ask. The Duke is shocked because Yvonne has never apologized before. He replies that everything is just wonderful, and both he and the adjutant are completely shocked by the girl's work. Yvonne is very happy and thanks her father for the compliment. He also notices that she smiled, but before she did not pay attention to the praise. The father of the main character tells her that she looks happy today. The girl agrees. She thought that her father would scold her today, but it seems she was mistaken. She reports that she did not think that her father would praise her. Kaiser says that until now, Yvonne has always been up to some kind of prank. The white-haired lady says that she is to blame and that she is sorry for causing so much trouble to their family. She promises to be more careful in the future. In her thoughts, she rejoices that all her life she will relax at home and enjoy delicious food. But suddenly her father screams and asks why his daughter is so downcast. Is there any flaws in her? He calms down and says that he himself punished the girl so that she would reform. But seeing his daughter in such a state, his heart is uneasy. Kaiser says that he bought a house, and the girl can break everything there to vent her anger. Yvonne doesn't believe what she just heard. The servant says that the Duke installed a shield near the house, and the girl can not only use magic, but also explode bombs. Her father says that the girl can go there even now, but she asks to wait. She thinks why destroy the house, because all her life she dreamed of having her own house, and does not understand why her father's face is so pleased. The main character tells her father that he punished her because she did something wrong and she doesn't have to destroy the house. But the Kaiser is furious and says his daughter's name and asks what's wrong with her. He uses his magic in rage and asks who this prince is that brought his daughter to this. The adjutant calms down the main character's father. He apologizes and says that he was too excited and asks you to forgive him if he scared him. Yvonne says in surprise that this is amazing because her father used real magic. The same one is a little embarrassed and asks why there should be any surprise. The main character notices her father's embarrassment and thinks that perhaps he is softer in character than he seems. The father tells his daughter that if she wants something, then she should just say, if she wants a romantic relationship, that there are so many men in the world much more worthy of a prince. Yvonne, hearing that her father will fulfill any of her requests, remembers that in her past life she did not have the opportunity and tells her father that she would like to study. The Duke, hearing this, asks if his daughter said the word to study. The adjutant says that it seems she said so. After reincarnation, the main character did not know much about this life. She wants to learn everything. The girl is very happy that she can only focus on her studies. Since Yvonne is also a magician, that means she can control magic like her father. But it seems strange to her that for some reason she cannot master books on magic, although she has no problems with reading. The main character wonders if this could be because she is not the real Yvonne. Of course, she doesn't need magic right now. She considers trying to use it, just in case. The girl remembers what is usually shouted in cartoons or novels, extends her right hand and says fire. At this time, her brother comes into the room and asks what she is doing. Yvonne is confused and wonders why he had to come in at such a moment. Yvonne's brother is Barden, who called her a crazy dog. He is the son of Duke Argentros, an assistant professor at the Academy of Magic in the Faculty of Magicians. The main character asks her brother what he is talking about. Well, he says that her words make him tremble. To begin with, he asks his sister to answer whether she herself put the sales in order and compiled the tables. He wonders why the girl suddenly wanted to study basic subjects. Yvonne claims that she just felt like it. The guy asks what happened to his sister and asks her if she wants the title. But the main character does not understand how her brother came to such conclusions and asks if he spoke for the title. He replies that it might be useful to replace the little Duke. Yvonne screams in rage that she just wants to help her brother and their family. Barden did not expect such words. He does not understand why the white-haired lady wants to help him. Yvonne says that previously the monster appeared once every 10 years, but now this period is becoming shorter and shorter. Her brother also knows about this since he participated in the battles. The last major battle took place 5 years after their appearance. It is obvious that the next war will be even larger and will most likely happen in 3 years. Barden knows, but asks what the girl's conclusions are based on. At first, she doesn't know what to answer, but then she says that her conclusions are based on the fact that she studied history all day today, looked at when there were major battles, and checked for the presence of monsters in these battles. The main character handed the guy a piece of paper. He looked at it in surprise and asked himself in his thoughts how Yvonne found out this herself and collected the data in a table. She reproaches her brother for what he said about the girl trying to get the title. Barden asks what his sister is really trying to achieve then, since she is not one of those who will just help. The main character thinks how suspicious he is. She says that, to be honest, it was very difficult for her, but she wants to help him and his father live a calm life. The girl asks if her brother understands her, but he still doesn't really believe it and suspiciously asks what she said. Ivan is already furious and repeats the word brother. Barden calls his sister a crazy dog in his thoughts and thinks that she really is crazy. He blames the crown prince for this. The guy comes to his father's office and says that Ivan is somehow strange. Kaiser asks if his son noticed too. The father says that his daughter said he was amazing, and the brother says that the girl called him brother. They think that the prince's refusal was a big blow for Ivan, because she said that it was hard for her, and now she wants to live a quiet life. Also, today, the teachers who came to her said that her thirst for knowledge is commendable, but her look is full of madness. Barden concludes that she is not herself right now. He asks what is it about this prince. Kaiser says that he wants to introduce Ivan to a man with whom the prince cannot be compared, because maybe her condition will improve if she goes on a date with someone better. Barden agrees and says it's better than staying at home all the time. The two of them grin evilly, and the brother asks if his father chose the candidate. Rodney claims that Ant's instincts have failed him again and orders him to prepare everything for the trip. He had a reason to go to the capital because the Kaiser sent him an invitation to an official meeting with his daughter. 18 years ago, the previous Duke of Gels was a rather straightforward and self-confident man. He took part in the fight against monsters, trusting only his sword. However, during the battle, he was trapped in flames. At that time, Kaiser Argentros was passing by, heading north to get medicine for his sick wife. The Kaiser's great move helped the Duke in that dangerous situation. Thus, the Yales family found itself in great debt to Argentros. The proud father was, on the one hand, grateful for the rescue, but asked not to disclose the fact that the magician helped him get rid of danger. Tied up, he promised to fulfill any request of the Kaiser. Nowadays, thanks to one letter, the forgotten oath has made itself felt again. The servant asks if the Duke really intends to go there, but he claims that Ant himself saw that the prince had a beloved, which greatly upset the Duke's daughter. The ward tells his master that Duke Argentros is crossing all boundaries, because how can one remind of an oath for such a purpose? He argues that Rodney is not obligated to date his daughter because of this, but the Duke does not listen to the guy with blue hair. He says that it is necessary to order a new suit and prepare gifts in advance. The servant does not understand why his master is so eager to do this, because this is Lady Yvonne Argentros herself. She has done so much in her life. Why should Rodney help this villainess? But the Duke is adamant. He says that he will certainly repay his family's debt, and the time for this has come, especially since one should not forget about his father's will. Antu cannot overcome his master's stubbornness, and he says that he will send a letter saying that the Duke is heading to the Gels estate in the capital and will also plan passage to the atelier. Rodney becomes curious about how scary a person the Duke's daughter is. The next day, Yvonne heads for the capital in a carriage. A girl on the street meets her gaze and tells her friend about it. She claims that we need to quickly leave here before this villain does something. The main character, of course, assumed, but did not think that everything was so bad. Barden claims that girls are still afraid of his sister, and her reputation is still strong. Yvonne asks in her thoughts whether he likes this treatment of his own sister. The family arrives in Natsiol. The main character is delighted with this place. The brother asks if she has already forgotten this place, because she has not been here for a long time. The white-haired lady wonders how Yvonne decided to throw a bomb at this peaceful place. The brother whispers in the main character's ear that if she wants to blow up something, then let him tell him the guy will borrow an artifact from his sister. The girl says that this is not the point, and in her thoughts, she asks herself what is wrong with them, what is the matter with them, what is the father, what is the brother. She looks at the imperial palace and thinks that it is much more beautiful than she imagined. But her father blocks the view of the palace and tells Yvonne not to even look that way. The main character is shocked. Her brother asks her if she is still sorry. But the white-haired lady asks why she should be sorry. Do they really think that the girl is still in love with the prince? She tries to tell her family that she forgot about the prince. Her brother and father, of course, don't believe her, but it's true. Altogether, they go to the best atelier in the empire, Elmador. Workers greet customers with warm smiles. Smart games, and you don't notice that they have a completely different reaction compared to when Yvonne came alone. She always came here alone. The workers never said a word to her, The girl was lonely and abandoned by everyone, the daughter of a duke. The white-haired lady became a little depressed from such memories. Her father asked if she was okay. The girl replies that she is fine, and the father tells the workers to find suitable outfits for her. The brother says that Yvonne should not yawn, and she should quickly choose a dress for herself. The girl is very touched by this, because it looks like they brought her here on purpose to cheer her up. She is very glad that now she has a family who cares about her. The main character tries on many dresses, but cannot choose because they are all very beautiful. The brother says that the girl looks good. The father agrees because his daughter is the most beautiful lady in the empire. One of the workers asks if he can show them the shoes on the stand, but the duke furiously asks what he is talking about. The brother says that the heel looks too high and dangerous for his sister. The father adds that she might twist her ankle. After that, they leave the studio and head to other stores. The duke, taking the exquisite summer hat in his hands, says that it will suit Yvonne very much. Barden just points at the jewelry and tells his sister that it looks good and she should try it on once. Yvonne can't help but smile and laugh happily. Brother and father notice this. The main character apologizes, but the two tell her that it's okay. The father claims that he remembered the mother of the village because she looks very much like her when she smiles. The brother decides to interrupt the conversation and suggests going for tea. Kaiser replies that this is a great idea. Barden adds that there is a cafe nearby. The white-haired lady doesn't understand what's happening. It seems to her that they set it all up on purpose because those two talk so unnaturally. The girl already wants to go home. When the family enters the cafe, the brother and father ask Yvonne if she likes her shopping. She says that she really likes it and thanks for such gifts. But as she already said, the white-haired lady is going to study in order to be useful to her family. So she has no particular place to wear these outfits and probably should return half of them. The Kaiser and his son are outraged. The father asks why there is no place to wear this. Barden agrees with his father and says that he will introduce Yvonne to a good man in 3 days in this cafe. The main character remembers how they sat at the table and asks herself if he was joking last time. Kaiser claims that he has already taken care of everything, and this man's name is Rodneen Gels. This is the young head of the Gels family, one of the revered families of the empire. He is a sword master and guardian of the Northern Gate. The white-haired lady thinks she heard something about him too. They say he is a handsome man, a gentleman, and a well-rounded man who is admired. That's what her dance teacher said. The main character asks her relatives why such an amazing person needs her, the villain Yvonne Argentros with a terrible reputation. The father and brother disagree. The Kaiser loudly asks who dared to give his daughter such a nickname. Barden says he may call his sister a crazy dog, but she's a pretty decent girl. The main character is very touched that these people are now protecting her, and it's really like her family, although she's not even the real Yvonne. The Kaiser has gone to the tower. Barden has some business to attend to. They are both so busy, but they made time for Yvonne. The knight asks the white-haired lady if she is finished and yawns. The main character notices that when her father was here, the servant behaved differently. The girl decides to teach him a little lesson and says that he has something on his hand. She screams that it is a wasp and begins to hit him on the arm. The knight screams and falls. The white-haired lady does not think that everything was so serious and asks if it hurt. The knight says that it would be better if the wasp stung him. He says that the lady's weapon, that is, the lady, is very strong. The girl looks at her hands with admiration and says that these are golden fists. Suddenly she notices something wrong. Turning around, she sees a dark aura near her. The girl is scared by this and asks you if this is black haze. Whatever it is, it's unpleasant. The main character begins to trample on this aura. It begins to say that the girl is a great magician, asking if she thinks this is the end. This gives Yvonne goosebumps because this nasty thing also talks. The knight does not understand what is happening and asks if his mistress is very angry. The dark consistency disappears and the main character asks her servant if he saw it. There was something black and unpleasant there. But the knight asks what she is talking about and whether she is deliberately trying to intimidate him. The white-haired lady is already beginning to think that she imagined it, but this cannot be. The prince walks through the greenhouse and notices that it is very calm there. He asks if this peace of mind was worth a lot. Barden replies that this is all thanks to the extensive efforts of the imperial family and the rest of the clans. A particularly great contribution was made by the Duke of Gels, who single-handedly defended the Northern Gate, but the white-haired guy could not even meet him. Adrian Verbant is the crown prince of the Verbnate Empire and master of the sword. The prince says that he has heard that young Gels is going to visit the capital for the first time. Barden asks if this is true. He understands that this news has already reached the prince himself. Adrian asks if the arrival of the Duke of Yales in the capital is somehow connected with Yvonne Argentrose. The white-haired guy says he doesn't know. The prince claims that the girl is now studying history, etiquette, and even communication skills. He says that he understands the efforts of the main character because she is trying to take the place of the princess. But the guy intends to make Princess Cordelia his wife, and therefore Lady Yvonne is trying in vain. Barden is already losing his temper. He tells His Highness that he seems to be worrying in vain because his sister has long forgotten the prince and started a new life, and Adrian shouldn't worry about it. But he only narcissistically tells the guy not to pretend, because the lady will not be able to forget the guy so easily. The white-haired gentleman himself knows very well. Adrian continues his monologue and suggests that Barden try to renounce him for the sake of his sister. The white-haired guy thinks that if it weren't for the title of prince, then the one standing in front of him would have already been beaten. Yvonne's brother is still angry, but suddenly he sees a strange hand mark on the tree. He will wonder where he could have come from there. Pawnee decides that this needs to be written down, just in case, and sets a bracelet with a magic stone on the trail. The prince asks the white-haired guy if he is listening to him. Barden tells him that there is some strange trail behind him, but when His Highness turns around, the trace is no longer there. The prince says that it is just a tree and assures Barden that he should not avoid talking and should better listen to his advice for Yvonne. The white-haired guy is already tired of this. He turns to His Highness and asks him to forgive him, but Yvonne has really already forgotten about the prince, so there is no need to pay so much attention to this. He and his father do not want Yvonne to take the princess's place. The prince is shocked by these words and does not know what to answer. Barden bows to the prince and leaves. During the war, he considered the guy not bad. The white-haired guy asks himself what Yvonne saw in Adrian and claims that she doesn't understand men at all. The girl's brother will try to prevent her from making such mistakes again. At this time, the man coughing up blood thinks that the girl killed his evil spirit with one kick. He assures that she will pay for it and leaves a dark mark on the tree. The maid runs around the room with lace and thanks her mistress. Yvonne says that Carol has already said her 30th thank you. She completely understood, and there is no need to thank her anymore. The main character thinks about how her maid is enjoying several strips of lace. The maid asks her mistress why she immediately sat down to books when she returned. Yvonne says she's just looking for something. She needs information about monsters associated with the shadow, but for some reason, it is not visible. The girl wonders what it was. She understands that Yvonne had many ill-wishers. Is someone really trying to kill her? She thinks the genre has suddenly changed to thriller. The main character cannot find anything in the books and wonders if there is other information. She asks her maid if she remembers that the girl told her not to touch under any circumstances. Carol screams that she didn't touch anything. The white-haired girl realizes that the maid knows something and asks what it was. The maid screams that this is the right box, standing in the artifact laboratory, which is an office for making bombs. But the girl repeats once again that she honestly did not touch anything and assures that this is true. Yvonne says she knows and just asked. She thinks about the bomb-making room and concludes that Yvonne was really into blowing up buildings. She asks her maid to let her know if anyone wants to go there. Carol obeys and says that if she discovers that someone has entered there, she will immediately throw the bomb that is in the earring. The main character looks a little puzzled at the earring. She didn't even think that it was a bomb. She thinks that Carol stayed to work as Yvonne's maid for a reason. At night, the white-haired lady decides to look into the laboratory. She comes into the room with a lamp. The girl thought that the laboratory would be dark and boring, but there everything was different. She starts looking at and touching everything. The main character finds the table Carol was talking about. She reaches out to the box. Having opened it, his girlfriend sees that there is only a diary there. She asks why it was so important that Yvonne gave Carol the bomb. The white-haired lady is trying in every possible way to open it. But, unfortunately, nothing works out for her. The main character thought that with Yvonne's strength she would succeed, but the diary did not open. Looking around, the girl notices a book on the shelf. She takes it in her hands and opens it to a page with a bookmark. On it, the main character sees the line, "Magical memory loss and a cure." The book falls out of her hands because the girl comes to the realization that the previous owner of the body had magical memory loss. Sitting at the table near the book, she says that she thought she could use magic because she is not the real Yvonne. It turns out she was sick. It's good that there is a method of healing. You just need to crush 1 kilogram of Teal's crystal. And if you drink tea regularly, complete healing is possible. At the girl's glance, she comes across the price of the precious stone. 1 gram costs 10 million gold, and 1 kilogram costs 100 million. She looks in shock at such figures, because for that time it was an exorbitant price. The Duke tries on a new suit, and rumors say that these clothes were made especially for him because they fit perfectly. Another employee claims that it's a big part of their family to work for Yale's. Having finished with the fitting, the Duke says to prepare everything according to these sizes. While he is changing into his outfit, the guy asks his servant if there has been any news from the north. Ant replies that, fortunately, there is no news about monsters, and asks whether his master plans to return to the north after tomorrow's meeting. The Duke answers yes, because lately monsters have been appearing too often. The maid asks her mistress if she slept well at night, because her complexion is somehow pale. Yvonne says no, and says she wants to buy something, so she needs to look at her property list. Carol claims there have been no changes since the mine was last sold. The main character realizes what her maid said, and turns around sharply. She asks the maid a lot of questions why this mine was the last, and whether there is anything else. Carol says that her mistress spent everything on loans from a magic company. Yvonne realizes that the daughter of rich people does not have a penny behind her. If you find out that in a dangerous situation she cannot use magic, then what will she have to do? She tells the maid that she doesn't care what kind of jewelry and orders her to quickly pick up and prepare the magic ball. Carol compliments her mistress and says that she looks beautiful with any jewelry. The main character wonders what's wrong with her, but still thanks her maid. Through a magic ball, the girl contacts the head of the branch of the gem company, and he claims that the price of Teal's is 20 million per gram. The head of the branch says that the girl contacted them just in time. Now the price is very good. Last week it was 30 million. The main character asks if by chance there is any cheap Teal's. Her interlocutor laughs at this and says that the girl knows how to joke. After all, money is money, and this crystal is usually sold by the gram, and if she needs a whole kilogram, then most likely she will have to buy all the Teal's that are in the empire. The white-haired lady in despair asks in her thoughts whether it is difficult to get him even with money. The maid calls her mistress, but she continues to think. The girl thought that in this life it would be easier for her. Yvonne looks at the mug she is drinking from and thinks that it looks expensive. The girl wonders how much such a cup could cost. She also thinks that if she sells the clothes, she will make a lot of money. The man's voice pulls her out of her thoughts and asks what the lady was thinking about so seriously. The main character remembered that she now has an official acquaintance with her fiancé. She asks for forgiveness. The girl already knew that the Duke was handsome, but she did not think that he was so handsome. She wonders where her father got him. Yvonne would even like to be the first to arrange a second date for him. But now is not the time for that. It will be better for both of them if the white-haired lady finishes quickly and leaves here. She asks the Duke to listen to her and asks if he could lend her money. An awkward silence hangs between them. Yvonne thought that after such words he would be speechless and quickly leave this place. The main character does not understand why the guy has not left yet and continues to look at the girl like that. She thinks it would be better if he grinned or started swearing. Rodnine asks how much the white-haired lady needs. The main character claims that this is an indefinite repayment and without interest of approximately 200 million gold, but the Duke only puts his hand in the pocket of his jacket. Yvonne does not believe that he is really ready to lend. She thought that he would start cursing and refuse her. When Gels takes a pen out of his pocket, the white-haired lady remembers that he is a master of the sword and is afraid that with this sharp object he is going to hurt her, but the Duke simply signs the piece of paper. Yvonne, looking at the guy's eyelashes, notices that they are long. Her gaze falls on Gels' gorgeous hair and in her thoughts asks what shampoo he uses. The main character notices that the Duke's nose is so chiseled and sharp, like that of a real swordmaster. Hertzen, the white-haired lady, thinks that the man sitting opposite her is charming. It seems that it was because of him that the word beauty was invented. He also has beautiful long fingers. Looking at them, the girl notices that Rodnane is writing something on a piece of paper with her beautiful hands. Taking a closer look, she sees that the guy is filling out an agreement on issuing a loan. The main character thinks that he is completely crazy and is really going to lend her money. She's going to stop the Duke, grabs the guy by the hand, but then she realizes what she has done and asks him to forgive her. She tells the Duke that he is very kind. The girl heard that he is a fair person and quite handsome, but still you can't just give out money as a loan. The main character herself knows about her situation and asks if Rodney knows about it. Today is their first meeting, and the guy is already ready to lend Yvonne so much money. She says she can't let this happen. Well, the Duke claims that he will simply lend her the money, because he knows for sure that the girl sitting opposite him is Lady Argentrose. This money also comes from his personal fortune, so there are no problems. He says that even if the white-haired lady deceives him, nothing can be done. The main character thinks that this man is too kind. She assures the Duke that it would be right to run away immediately, because the lady on the date behaves very strangely. Well, he approaches Yvonne and says that if he doesn't think the girl is strange, then there's no point in running. Then the main character thinks that she needs to run. She jumps up from her seat and says that she has to go. Yells asks the girl to wait and says that he will take her to the Argentrose estate. The white-haired lady says you shouldn't do this. The Duke asks if it's really not possible because he would like to get to know Yvonne better. The main character's heart melts at such words, and she thinks that she also wants to get to know the guy. But she refuses him, because for the sake of the Duke, she must leave first. She says that they should say goodbye here. Then the guy asks if the white-haired lady could fulfill one of his requests. He suggests calling each other by their first names the next time they meet, and asks Yvonne for her opinion on this. He tells the main character that he will call her Yvonne, and she can call him Rodney. The Duke kisses the hand of the white-haired lady. The girl agrees to this request and smiles. After the meeting, the main character decides to relax near the fountain. She thought that her heart would jump out of her chest and that she was unworthy of such a person. But the girl was happy, even if not for long, because they would not see him again. Yvonne sees painfully familiar golden hair and realizes that it is the prince. He says that the lady is persistent because even on the day of her date, she wanders around looking for him. The main character thought that under no circumstances would she meet him here, the beloved son of the emperor's concubine. Adrian's real mother died, so he was adopted by the current empress, thus becoming the heir and always caring only about his reputation. That's why he didn't like Yvonne. If any of his clothes or accessories were of a color that reminded him of Yvonne, he pointedly avoided it in appearance and also ignored the white-haired lady's declarations of love several times. Now the prince is showing off with all his might and asking what he can do with the lady who is suffering so much because of him. The main character is not very happy to greet him. Adrian didn't think that even on such a day, the girl would come here. As befits the main character of the novel, he can certainly be called handsome, but after that ideal man, the prince seems somehow ordinary. Adrian tells the girl that she shouldn't look at him with such a sad look. But the white-haired lady does not understand what he is talking about and claims that she does not want to disturb him, so she will go. The prince at first says good, but then realizes what Yvonne said and is surprised to ask where she is going when he is right here. But the girl asks for forgiveness and gets up from her seat. She thinks that she should leave there quickly, but the prince screams for her to wait and grabs the lady's hand. The main character, in shock, asks if the prince grabbed her hand. Adrian lets go of her hand and says that he didn't mean to. Yvonne says that there are a lot of people there, and if the prince holds her hand, it will affect his reputation. The white-haired lady claims that the prince has always been worried about this and thinks that she should tell him directly. The girl says that he seems to have misunderstood because she has long forgotten about him. She assures that Adrian need not worry because in the future, the girl will not interfere with them. The main character apologizes for everything she did. But the prince says that the lady is just trying to reach his heart. As far as he knows, Yvonne has begun studying to become his wife. He says that there is no need to be shy because there is nothing shameful in learning. The white-haired lady does not understand what this narcissistic prince is talking about. She notices that his hair is yellow, and he says disgustingly, as if his head is smeared with oil. The girl furiously tells His Highness that everything is wrong. She wonders why this psycho cannot understand, and says that she no longer has any feelings for Adrian. But he still doesn't understand, and says that the girl is just trying to attract his attention. Even the Duke of Yales was used for this. The prince asks if Yvonne feels sorry for him. The main character clenches her fists and almost cries because of this idiot. His Highness asks the lady if she is crying because of him. Rodney approaches the couple from behind and says that he has finally found Ivan. He greets the prince and says his name is Rodnan Gels. Adrian, in amazement, asks if this is the Duke of Gels. Two guys are standing opposite each other. People begin to whisper. One lady from the crowd asks if Miss Argentrose stands between the prince and the duke. Is this really a love triangle? Another lady asks what kind of strange things the girl is saying. 5. It is immediately clear that the Duke of Gels has rushed to protect the prince. Yvonne simply has no words. She thinks that she should have taken her brother's artifact. Rodney tells the main character that he has a gift for her, which he did not have time to give, claiming that this is not the most suitable place. The Duke suggests retiring to some quiet place. Yvonne thinks that the guy realized that she was in an unpleasant situation and decided to help her. The white-haired lady hugs the Duke's arm and says that they are leaving to spend time together. She invites the Duke to come with her. Rodney holds the girl's hand, indicating to her not to let him go, and claims that, as the lady said, they have a date, so he will see His Highness next time. The couple leaves, leaving the prince alone. On the way, the main character says that she will certainly thank the Duke for this, and to be honest, she knows that the guy came on a date at the request of her father. She assumes that it must have been difficult for Rodney to do this, and now he also saved her from the prince. The white-haired lady thanks him. He thinks about it, and Yvonne asks maybe it was unpleasant for him, because she didn't even think about it. The Duke approaches Yvonne. The girl notices that he is too close. The guy reaches out his hand to her hair, and the main character closes her eyes, thinking that he wants to kiss her. But Rodney simply took a leaf from her hair and reminded her that they had agreed that the lady would call him by his name. But the main character thinks that if the Duke behaves like this, then she may not understand everything correctly. Rodney had already poured a mountain of sugar into his cup. He thinks how the villainess may have such clear eyes. Maybe this is her charm. The servant asks his master if he can hear him. The Duke asks Aunt if he told him before he went on the date that he had good looks. The ward with blue hair adjusts his monocle and with a smile on his face replies that, as now, the Duke is handsome and will always be so. Rodney asks how he can believe this. Perhaps his criteria for beauty are different from the standard ones. Aunt asks what his master is talking about and asks if the Duke will believe him if he conducts a survey and provides him with a report. It seemed to the guy that Miss Argentrose was looking at him like he was a stone. The servant claims that this is unheard of. I say that she has problems with her eyes. The Duke gets angry from such words. Rodney thinks he hears some strange ringing. He remembers Yvonne and says it's like a lady calling his name. The guy is completely confused. Aunt says that his master seems very tired and asks if he gave away the gift he prepared. The Duke remembers that only after the lady left did he realize that he had not given a gift, so he followed her and saw her crying. The guy thinks it's all because of the prince. It was not easy for the girl to go on a date, and then there was the prince, whom she had loved for a long time. Surely it was hard for the lady to see him, so hard that she took the guy by the arm to quickly get out of there. The Duke remembers how the girl thanked him. He suggests that the girl might like blondes. Aunt reports that everything is ready for tomorrow's trip and asks when his master plans to leave. But he says that for now, he will remain in the capital and orders his servant to find out if Lady Argentrose has any large debts. The ward asks the Duke again. Rodnan asks if Antu needs any explanations. He claims that they are not needed, and he will try to find out. The guy, drinking his coffee, thinks about the strangeness of the fact that the girl asked exactly 200 million. Their family is considered one of the richest in the empire. Why would she need such a sum? This doesn't sound like the Duke, but he won't satisfy his curiosity for now. The guy doesn't finish his sentence and looks at the sunset. He thinks that it is very similar to Lady Argentrose's eyes, reminiscent of a precious stone, and he should have prepared a more valuable gift for her. Yvonne received a gift, opens it, and sees a bracelet with the teal stone inside. She sees that there are at least 10 grams. If translated into money, it will cost a lot. And this is a gift for a first date. The girl notices that Rodnan Gels looks like an ideal man. He gave her what she needed most. The girl thinks that she may not get him, but she wishes him happiness. Her brother and father come into the main character's room, and they ask me if it's true that the girl met a prince on a date. The white-haired lady replies that she met him by chance. In her thoughts, she adds that to be more precise, it was in the square. She tells her family that they both worked too hard and their complexions are terrible. The fatigue of the average Korean company employee is visible on their faces. They think that Yvonne has had a hard time, and she is also worried about them. The main character already regrets what she said and thinks that the guys will start lamenting again. Kaiser says that he sent his daughter on this date in vain. Because of him, she collided with the prince. The father apologizes for this. The white-haired lady says that everything is fine. On the contrary, she is uncomfortable in front of the Duke of Yales, because he had to go on a date with someone like her. The father asks his daughter not to say such words. They hurt his soul. The brother asks what it means to be with someone like her, because his sister is very smart and beautiful. The father says that he is proud of his daughter. Of course, there were rumors because of her character, but the girl realized everything, so she shouldn't say that. Yvonne smiles and says that there will be no more, so she decided to forget about everything that happened and start her own business. She thinks she needs huge capital now. She tells her brother and father that she needs money and folds her hands in the shape of a coin. The guys say how brazen she is, that is, how determined she is. The main character asks the Kaiser to borrow 10 million gold. She will pay it back with interest. Barden says that this is the price of several outfits, and he can give them to his sister just like that, but the girl claims that she does not want to and will write an official promissory note. She will take on a debt from her father, which she will certainly repay. The girl claims that she wants to gain trust. The brother doesn't recognize his sister. The father agrees, although he could also just give her money. After all, they are not only a clan of magicians, but also the owners of the house company, which is a good chance to learn how to run a business. Yvonne thanks her father and says that she will not disappoint him. The Kaiser, standing in the evening with a paper in his hand, says that his daughter has changed a lot. Her determined look makes her even more like her mother. The father says that he is angry with the prince, but this situation turned out to be good luck for them. The brother asks if Yvonne said anything about a date. The white-haired man replied that she did not say anything. He hoped to arrange another meeting for them depending on her reaction. Barden assures that even though his sister has forgotten the prince, a person's feelings do not go away so easily, and suddenly the girl only pretends that she is no longer interested in him. Father says that this Prince Adrian, although he is the heir to the throne, does not yet have strong power. He became the heir because he was adopted by the Empress, and this could change at any moment. The guy asks what his father means and whether he wants to influence the choice of the heir. The Kaiser claims that if Adrian ceases to be crown prince, he will no longer be able to look up to their family. Barden asks if he is ready to do this for the sake of Yvonne, because the Argentroses have never interfered in the affairs of the imperial family. The man says that this is not only for the sake of his daughter, the king's illegitimate daughter Mare, whom the prince brought from the war, does not inspire confidence in him. The guy says that he has the same thoughts. Her healing skills with which she saved the prince on the battlefield are beyond the normal level. He even thought about conducting an investigation. The father entrusts this matter to his son, and he tells him to contact the third prince. Someone sent 2 letters to the main character. The girl asked who they were from. The maid replied that one was from the Duke of Yales, and the second from the Crown Prince. The white-haired lady falls into despair because she thinks that the first is a complaint, and the second is a summons. She thinks that the Duke may not be happy with his date with her. The prince must have sent an arrest warrant for that bomb incident. The maid is trying to calm down her mistress, and I assure that although she acted a little on emotions, she now leads a calm lifestyle, as if she had gone to a monastery. Yvonne asks where she has seen a monastery be so good and asks her maid to give her letters. She opens the letter from the Duke first and thinks about what to do if it is really a letter of complaint or a demand to return the bracelet from Tiel's. The girl remembers that day he was so caring and gentle. She reads the text of the letter. Rodnine wrote to the girl that he really liked yesterday's date. The guys are worried whether the main character liked the gift. If she has time, Tony is pestering her to go to the opera with him tomorrow. He will wait for her answer. The white-haired lady looks at the paper and realizes that this is an invitation to a second date. The maid says that the Duke liked her mistress. But Yvonne says that the refusal must be sent. Her maid does not understand why. The main character says that Rodnine most likely sent the letter out of politeness, since he came on a date at the request of his father. It's a pity for the girl to refuse such a man, but nothing can be done. I didn't even want to open the letter from the prince, but in short, it talked about an invitation to a tea party that Cordelia was throwing, and a threat that Yvonne would promise not to use magic. The white-haired lady clutches the letter and in her thoughts asks how the prince dares to treat her like a criminal. She said that she had forgotten him, and now he suddenly felt sorry. The girl calls His Highness a lousy bastard. She says that she needs to write an answer and asks her maid to bring paper for writing. The prince is sitting at a tea party. The guests are talking about how it is not surprising that this place is called the Green Palace. The summer flowers look so bright and fresh. His Highness thinks that the girl really didn't come. And before, she tried to get an invitation in any way if she knew that he would be there. Adrian wonders why the girl did this. Didn't she say those words in order to arouse the guy's interest? He thinks this can't happen. Cordelia grabs the prince's hand and asks if he thinks it was very dangerous on the battlefield then. His Highness says that the girl saved his life, all thanks to her restoration magic. The guests begin to praise the lady and say that she has unique abilities. One of the ladies heard that thanks to them, Cordelia played a big role in the war, which was to be expected from Princess Mare. The girl thanks the lady and says that everything is thanks to the skill that was passed on to her from her ancestors. After this, the guests begin to gossip about the date of the Duke of Yales and Lady Argentrose. They say that the Duke is still in the capital. They say that the lady behaved very modestly with him. The girls are very curious about how they ended up on a date. They heard that he is very handsome and would also like to meet the Duke. Cordelia clearly doesn't like this and decides to tell Marchioness Shelia and Lady Alanta that they both have such beautiful skin. The girls are distracted from the conversation. One of them says that lately she has been taking extra care of her skin. The princess asks them to share their beauty secrets. They say that she also has beautiful skin. At the same time, Yvonne was heading in a carriage towards the capital. She looked at the contract for the supply of rhodia grass. This is truly an ingenious product. It is inexpensive, so the girl was able to buy the rights to it with her father's money. Rhodia herb is usually used as an antipyretic, but is not a good remedy due to the availability of more effective drugs, but that is if it is used as a remedy for fever. According to the plot, when Adrian and Cordelia returned to the capital, an unknown skin disease appeared among the aristocrats. Cordelia, who was an illegitimate child, was not accepted in high circles, but she found a way to treat this disease, thereby changing the attitude towards herself. That remedy turned out to be rhodia herb. Cordelia gave this herb to everyone for free, but the main character has no such desire because she is the villain Yvonne. Since the girl is in the plot of the novel, it is necessary to use all the information she has. She mentally apologizes to the princess, but she uses the rhodia herb to earn 200 million. The servant informs his mistress that they have arrived in Nasiel. The white-haired lady thinks that the herb can be sold immediately, but if she wants to sell it at a high price, it is important to think about packaging. The product she is planning should look high quality and at the same time cure a skin disease. These will be natural handmade cosmetics. The main character needs to find premises for the store today and start production as soon as possible before the disease spreads. She looks at the imperial palace and tells the prince to drink tea with his bride while she goes about her business. Yvonne gets dust in her eyes because a strong wind has blown, and the Duke of Yales is approaching the girl. The main character asks what brought him here. Everyone around begins to gossip about the situation. They, seeing the Duke, say that he is much more handsome than they say about him. The white-haired lady looks at Rodnane and agrees. Because the Duke is truly simply incomparable, it seems as if he is all glowing. His appearance is captivating, even if he is just standing, and even his cold gaze is attractive. It is a killer beauty. Rodnane addresses the main character, but she turns around only when he calls her name. She apologizes and asks the Duke what he said. The guy says that even though the girl rejected him, he is very glad that they met by chance. The guy asks if the ladies' meeting is over yet. Yvonne says it's over, but she had personal matters to attend to. The main character is tormented by her conscience that she is lying, looking into these beautiful eyes, because she did not have any meeting. Rodnane says that this is good, and he was just about to take a walk. He asks if the girl will allow him to accompany her. She points a finger at herself and asks if the guy wants to accompany her. She doesn't understand what's going on because he asked for a second date out of respect for his father. But what's happening now? The ladies continue to gossip and ask what the Duke is talking about with Lady Argentrose and why they are together. They are already discussing the possibility that the girl might threaten him. Yvonne thinks that nothing good will happen if Rodnane gets involved with this villain. In the novel, the Duke of Gels almost did not appear, only mentioned as the ruler of the northern lands. And this duke suddenly goes on a date with Yvonne, who has fallen ill with a strange rare disease. After being reincarnated into her body, many events did not go according to the plot. Girls should behave more carefully with those about whom little is known. Because the novel has too many contradictions, for example, a loved one turned out to be a traitor. It may be a simple courtesy, but there is nothing wrong with being careful. The white-haired lady says that in this case, it is better for the guy to go for a walk with someone who knows the capital well. Rodney, judging by the expression on his face, does not look very happy. He comes closer to the lady and says that this is an excuse to spend time with her. The Duke asks if Yvonne could just let him. The main character is very moved. The knight behind her tells his mistress how cruel she is. The girl still goes for a walk with Rodney. She released the accompanying knight and went with the Duke. It happened naturally. The guy told the servant to rest somewhere for now, but he heard these words and immediately rushed off. Now the girl thinks that it is dangerous for her to walk alone, but suddenly, she will find herself in even greater danger. The Duke asks why the girl is accompanied by a knight and whether this is such a trick. The main character says that it is simply dangerous on the streets, but at the same moment, she remembers that Yvonne was a magician who does not need a knight. At first, she didn't understand why the guy was asking her such obvious things, but for Yvonne, this is far from obvious. She says that naturally, she could do without the knight, but caution never hurts. Rodney looks forward coldly and agrees with the white-haired lady. He claims that there are too many scum in the world. The main character only hopes that she is not this trash. The girl sincerely wishes that it would be so, and decides to change the topic of conversation. She asks the Duke if he minds, because she is going to go shopping. The guy says that there is nothing wrong with it, and concludes that Yvonne loves shopping. He claims he will take this into account. The main character doesn't understand why she feels like she's under interrogation. She remembers all of Yvonne's atrocities and says that she needs to learn to spend less. She's tired of all this luxury. The girl understands that for some reason she began to make excuses. The Duke asks what do you mean she doesn't like dresses, bags, shoes, and jewelry. He should have found out in advance before giving a gift. The white-haired lady understands that the bracelet with the stone that she needs so much now is a clear luxury item. As soon as she remembers this, a smile immediately appears on her face. The girl claims that she really liked Rodney's gift and thanks him. She thinks about the properties of this precious crystal because it can cure Yvonne's illness. The girl claims that this is true. The Duke says what a relief and thinks a little. The white-haired lady asks herself why the guy has such a face and thinks that she did something wrong again. But after a short silence, Rodney began asking the girl questions as if nothing was wrong, as if he was trying to find out everything about her at once. But that didn't end there, because he also charmed her with his words. He approaches Yvonne and says that she looks even more beautiful today. The girl thinks that she needs to calm down and stop worrying so much, otherwise it will be worse for her. This is just being said out of politeness. She just needs to agree and move on to the next topic. Yvonne says the Duke looks good too. On the way, they meet two ladies. They are greeted with Rodney. The eldest lady says that she is the wife of Viscount Francia and points to a young girl, informing her that this is her daughter. The Duke says, with a soft smile, that he is glad to see them, but now he is busy and has to go. The girl says goodbye to him. The older lady apologizes for delaying him. Yvonne noticed that he had just acted so coldly, which seemed strange to the girl, because she thought that he was nice to everyone. The Duke asks if he asked too many questions to the white-haired lady, because he said that he would not interfere. He apologizes and says that he is just interested in getting to know the lady better. The main character thinks that this man is truly ideal, but she is trying to move away from such thoughts. His attempts to get closer to the girl, personal questions, and a caring attitude. Having put the whole picture together, the girl comes to the conclusion that he is interested in her. As soon as she saw the coat of arms of the Gels family, she remembered that the Duke had another reason for treating her this way. She studied the history of the Verbney imperial family in class. The main character recalls the secret investigative organization of the imperial family. Since an official investigation was not possible, they acted in secret. They are said to have been closely associated with one of the 4 largest clans of the empire. No one has seen them in person, but if the Gels family is responsible for the secret investigation of the imperial family, then everything falls into place. The Duke's father asked for a date, The non-white-haired lady cannot say what caused his behavior after the date. She continues on her way and thinks that if she remembers, in the novel Yvonne became more and more cruel, so the prince put her under secret surveillance. That is, Rodnine could be a spy sent by the prince to keep an eye on her. The victim grabs the girl and moves her a little to the side. He tells Yvonne that she needs to look ahead when walking down the street. She almost crashed into a tree, so the girl should be more careful. The main character is a little embarrassed and thinks that the guy is being so kind to her on purpose to lull her vigilance. She thanks Rodnine and promises that she will be more attentive. The girl thinks that this is even better. At the same time, she will demonstrate to the Duke that she does not pose a danger to Adrian. She thinks she will relieve Mr. Rodnine of his duties. A white-haired lady enters a cosmetics store and begins testing the products. Herkeg asks if she chooses cosmetics for herself. The girl claims that she does. But the guy says that she looks beautiful, even without makeup, and asks why she needs all this. Yvonne is embarrassed and says that everything is not so good. She thinks that Rodnine is trying to point out that the white-haired lady is wasting her money. The main character sees that this store mainly sells cosmetics in bright colors, and she should go to another one. She reports this to the Duke. A couple enters another store and sees an elegantly dressed lady there. She greets the main character and the guy. The white-haired lady notices that the saleswoman recognized them immediately. The hostess is well versed in representatives of the upper class. Yvonne inhales and feels a wonderful aroma. It's the aroma of herbs. She tells the store owner that it looks like she uses herbs in cosmetics. The saleswoman assures that everything is correct and thanks the lady for noticing this. The girl asks if the lady can tell you about the product she picked up. The hostess takes the cream into her hands and talks about its properties. The main character understands that, after all, functional cosmetics have amazing properties thanks to herbs. She applies the product to her hand, and you notice that the owner takes pride in her products and they have a nice smell and texture. The white-haired lady thinks that she can make the necessary me in cosmetics here with the help of rhodia herb. She turns around and meets the Duke's gaze, who tilts his head with a smile. The girl remembers that the Duke gave her a bracelet, but she gave him nothing. He, of course, may turn out to be a spy, but this is the task of the prince, and not the one who carries it out, and the boss is to blame, not the subordinates. The white-haired lady calls Rodnine to her, then comes closer and asks what it is. The main character understands that she shouldn't think like that, but the Duke seems to her like an obedient dog. She puts a little cream on her finger and asks the guy to give her his hand. He doesn't understand at first, but then agrees. The girl puts cream on the Duke's hand and thinks that the guy's hands are very beautiful hands. Looking at his veins, she thinks that he seems very domineering. Perhaps such thoughts are unworthy of her, but let someone who looks at this hand and does not think the same throw a stone at her. Yvonne asks Rodnine how he is. Well, the guy doesn't answer anything. The main character begins to think that she behaved too rudely. The Duke might not like that she was touching him. The white-haired lady begins to worry and says that she just wanted to thank the guy for that gift, but offering hand cream to a man who often holds a sword is too much. She claims that she herself understands that it was rude. The girl runs away and asks her to forgive her. Rodnine tries to stop her and says that on the contrary, you need to take care of the skin of your hands. The guests in the royal palace are again gossiping about the Duke and Yvonne, and they have already heard rumors that they went on a date today. The prince approaches in the crowd with Cordelia. He claims that the event has already ended, but the guests are not leaving. He says he became curious about what they were talking about. One lady claims that nothing special happened. They were just discussing the Duke of Yale's and Miss Argentro's. They are rumored to be on a date in Natsiel. The prince thinks and repeats the girl's words that the lady is on a date. Cordelia seems worried by the prince's behavior. The guests say goodbye to His Majesty, and he leaves grinning. He thinks that Yvonne is trying to make him jealous, and it's quite cute. Adrian finds it surprising that this villainess seems attractive to him. This time she tried her best. The princess looks very angry about this, but their prince rejected the villainess because he doesn't like her, but his facial expression and actions indicate obvious jealousy. Such feelings cannot be expressed by those who have absolutely no interest. Cordelia squeezes the flower in her hand and says that it is necessary to draw his attention to herself again. She sees a guy walking down the road and realizes that it is Barden Argentros. During the war, with the help of healing magic, the princess managed to ingratiate herself with those around her. The only one who did not succumb to her charm was the Duke of Barden. Cordelia may be able to use him to regain the prince's interest in her. She doesn't dislike the guy, but she has no other choice. At this time, the couple leaves the store. The main character says that this smell suits the Duke very much, and he asks if the scent of a rose suits him. The white-haired lady says that it suits him very well and adds in her thoughts that everything suits handsome men. Rodnine wants to ask Yvonne something, but her brother interrupts the Duke and comes between them. The main character asks where Barden is from here. Well, he says that rumors about their date reached not only the Academy, but also the Imperial Palace. The white-haired lady says that everything is not like that, and this is not a date. Yvonne's brother is greeted by the Duke and introduces himself. Rodnine says that he is very pleased and claims that Barden is very similar to his sister, like the Duke, and I heard he is a real handsome man. The guy thanks the Duke of Yales. The main character notices that Rodnine even charmed her brother. He seems to be nice to everyone, regardless of gender. The Heart says that he definitely wanted to meet him, and if Barden doesn't mind, he would like to invite him and Lady Yvonne to dinner. The brother grabs his sister's hand, apologizes, and says that this is impossible. He just wanted to tell him something. Barden says that Yvonne has been trying to start a new life lately, so the Duke should not instill empty hopes in her just out of curiosity. He asks his sister if this is true. The main character thinks that this is right. Only Hertz is watching her on the orders of the prince and is not trying to charm her. Rodnine has this perplexed face. Barden is talking nonsense, but for some reason the main character is ashamed. The brother takes his sister away. The white-haired lady turns around and thanks Mr. Rodnine for today. When the Duke returns home, Aunt says that he has completed the investigation into Lady Yvonne's financial condition that his master asked him to do. Rodnine, with a gloomy face, tells his servant to report. The ward claims that she has no debts and she has not lent money to anyone. Everything is crystal clear. He asks what happened to the gentleman because he looks so puzzled. The Duke asks Aunt how he can confess his feelings to a girl who doesn't need money, expensive gifts, or dates. The servant asks if the girl herself said so, and says that if she doesn't need anything, it means refusal. In other words, the Duke was rejected. He is surprised that people like the Duke are rejected, but his master claims that the girl gave him a gift. Aunt says that she put a wall between them and gave reason to hope for more. The guy claims that the girl deserved the title of villain. The Duke gets very angry at such words and orders his servants not to dare talk about her like that. The ward apologizes and says that he is worried about his master. Rodnine asks what is bothering the guy so much. He says that if you think about it, then his master for a lady is just one of the fish in her aquarium. The Duke asks what this means. Aunt explains that this is now a fashionable expression in the capital. It means that a person continues to meet with a fan, although they have the intention of developing this relationship as if keeping fish in an aquarium. Rodnine remembers the main character and says that if this is Yvonne's aquarium, then that's quite good. But the Duke thinks that it makes no sense for him to be in such an aquarium because of this terrible prince, the white-haired girl does not allow anyone to be near her. He thinks that he needs to draw her attention to himself first. Therefore, first of all, we need to deal with the prince. He tells Aunt to send a letter to the third prince that he will pay him a visit soon, Yvonne. Now she is at home. She still explained to her brother that it was not a date. The same one says that he hopes that the girl is not interested in the Duke of Yales. But the girl assures that no, because they just met by chance on the street. Barden says that this is good because the Duke speaks in such a soft voice that she herself will not notice how she will succumb to his charm. The girl asks her brother if the Duke charmed him, and he tells him if he could see his face when meeting him. Barden asks what she is talking about and what kind of face he had. But the white-haired lady says that she doesn't even know, because her brother should know better. In the evening, the guy is taking a bath. He is really worried about his sister, and she is just joking. Barden begins to use magic, and uses it to spin water around his fingers. He thinks that his sister suffered so much because of the prince, and he cannot allow this to happen. He remembers Adrian saying that the lady wouldn't be able to forget him so easily. The brother thinks that if His Highness had not been a prince, he would have killed him even then in the garden. Barden remembers that day in the garden, he noticed a strange print. He almost forgot about it. The guy gets out of the bath and puts on a robe. He takes the bracelet in his hands and goes to the mirror. His brother looks at the bracelet with a purple stone. But looking in the mirror, he notices that there is something behind him. This is a huge scolopendra. Barden turns around in shock and asks what it is. It attacks the guy and knocks him to the ground. The bracelet jumps out of the hands of the white-haired guy and pounds towards the door. Barden doesn't understand how this nasty thing got there. He uses protection magic. This black haze looks like dark magic. My brother thinks who could have sent this monster. The guards should have come running there a long time ago, but they are not there, which means the connection with the outside world has been broken through magic. The guy's barrier begins to crumble. Yvonne is sitting in her room. She asks Carol if she heard anything, but the maid does not understand what her mistress is talking about, and the white-haired girl thinks that she imagined it. But suddenly, she hears another crash and runs out into the corridor. The maid asks where her mistress went and follows her. The girls go to Barden's room. The maid reports that this is the young master's room, but she hears absolutely nothing. Yvonne opens the doors and tells the maid that her brother is in danger. She asks the maid to call people. The girl understands that she clearly heard some kind of roar and the words of a spell. She ordered to call people, but suddenly, nothing special happened. She would be embarrassed. The girl looks through the open door and sees her brother fighting a monster. She asks in shock what is happening. Barden notices that his sister has arrived and asks her to strike with magic. But now the girl cannot use magic. The guy notices that poison is pouring out of the monster's mouth and warns his sister about it. The girl gets very scared and a protective barrier appears around her. The brother asks his sister if she just woke up and tells her to quickly use magic. Scolopendra breaks through his brother's barrier. He creates a magic circle to jump away. Yvonne realizes that the magic broke because of her. She would like to do something, but her body does not listen to her. The girl asks when Carol will return and whether Barden will be able to hold out until help arrives. Since the girl can't help, it's better for her to move away. Her brother begins to use attack magic, but the monster does not take anything. He thinks his sister panicked. Surely this is the first time she has seen such a monster. She was naturally confused in such a situation. He himself almost lost consciousness when he first saw such a monster, but without the help of his sister, Barden will not be able to cope with it. He tells Yvonne to pull herself together, but suddenly the poison paralyzes him. The guy is very angry at his powerlessness, but his sister may be in danger. Suddenly, the main character screams so that the monster does not move. She calls him a lousy bug and throws him a bracelet. With this blow, she seriously injures the monster. Somehow rumors come running, and they ask if Mr. and Mrs. are okay. Barden had forgotten that the most useless thing in the world was worrying about his sister. Cordelia begins to bleed. She claims that this simply cannot be. The contract with the monster ended, and in return, her life became shorter. She thinks how the white-haired lady killed her monster with some insignificant bracelet. At first, the girl was able to do this with the monster that followed her shadow. But the centipede named Callan, whom the princess sent to Barden, was a monster of the highest level. He is not someone who can be defeated by ordinary physical strength. Cordelia realizes that the main character appeared at exactly the right moment, but she couldn't hear anything from outside because of the dark magic. The princess comes to the conclusion that the girl already knew what was happening. But this is impossible, since Cordelia did not plan to attack Barden. She was only going to follow him until she found out that he recorded her trail on that tree. The princess looks at the magic ball and wonders if it really was a pure coincidence. However, the girl understands that something doesn't add up, so we need to check whether the young man's sister could find out something. At this time, the father of the main character looks at the locked monster. He claims that this is the monster of a dark magician, and there is no doubt about it. The man asks if this centipede really appeared in the house, and Barden replies that yes, and last night the monster suddenly appeared in his bathroom. And judging by the direction, he either climbed through the window or was already waiting for him inside. The young lady remembers that the window was tightly closed. Then the young man assumes that maybe the monster had already followed him when he went to the war to make a report. Father says it's quite possible, but he doesn't think so. Then the main character's brother asks why, and the man replies that only a strong dark magician can enter into a contract with such a monster, pledging his life expectancy as collateral. And after concluding this contract, a connection with the monster appears, because of which the Mash cannot travel far. And the young man asks if this means that there is now a dark magician in the capital. His father replies that this is exactly the case, and is also so impudent that he dared to send his monster to the duchy. Dark mages are those who have made a contract with hellish demons. They summon monsters to cause war. The strongest of them can enter into contracts with monsters and control them, which is why they are even more dangerous. The Empire strictly punishes those associated with dark magic and also controls all information related to it. The young lady thinks how a dark magician walks freely in the capital of such a state, and whether it could be that what stuck to her shadow that time was also the work of his hands. Therefore, the girl thinks whether she should ask the Duke about this because he is the owner of the magic tower, and at this time, her brother says that the situation is more serious than he thought, and asks what this dark magician is trying to achieve. The father claims that now they have little information, so it's difficult to say, and then asks if they have anyone in mind. The young man claims that he doesn't even know, because apart from participating in the war, he wasn't particularly involved with anything. Then the father says that they do not know his purpose, and first they should strengthen the security. The young lady looks at the man and thinks that the reason why Barden could become the target of a dark magician. Most likely, in the novel, Yvonne became a dark archmage, but the girl understands that in order to avoid this fate, she did everything to stop being a villain, and she has no desire to become a dark magician, so Yvonne doesn't understand how she became a dark magician in the first place. But suddenly, the girl realizes that this might not be her personal desire, and it is quite possible that something terrible could happen in the near future, and in the end, the fate of a dark magician may await her. The young lady, thinking about this, does not know what to do, but her father turns to her and asks how the girl finished off this monster, because it has thick scales, which even powerful magic or the ball technique does not affect. Barden puts his hand in his pocket and doesn't even know how to explain all this. He takes out a bent bracelet from there and shows it, and when he says that Yvonne struck the monster with this decoration, the father is shocked. He asks if Yvonne really did it, and the young lady replies that, to be more precise, she threw the jewelry. After all, there was nothing suitable around. Then the man asks why his daughter didn't use magic. The young lady smiles in response to this and does not know what to answer. She is wondering whether she should tell her father that she cannot use magic. The girl goes through several scenarios in her head. The first of them shows hope, because the father can buy the young lady Tielis, but the second option doesn't seem so good, because the father might yell at her and say that the girl has done something wrong again. The main character understands that she has not yet won enough of their trust, and therefore cannot make up her mind. Then he starts talking, but her brother interrupts her and says that it's all because of him, because that monster grabbed him, and in that situation, Yvonne could not use magic. Otherwise, it would have hurt him too. The young lady realizes that she had a chance to do this before the monster grabbed him, and the young man adds that his sister's decision was the best. The main character wonders if her brother understood that she cannot use magic, and if he is trying to cover her up. The father asks if they were hurt, and the young man just looks at his sister and smiles. He says that everyone is safe. Yvonne says that she is also whole thanks to her brother. She thinks that it was even touching, because lately the guy has been trying to please her, which was awkward, and perhaps he would like to be on good terms with the real Yvonne. The father says that the young lady defeated the monster with physical strength alone, and in this way she is like her mother, Camilla. The guys ask if she really looks like her mother. Her father answers yes. After all, Camilla was an excellent knight and also very strong. At a hunting tournament, she caught a brown bear with her bare hands, after which her father fell in love with her. The man sadly says that such a strong woman still went to another world. But then, after a minute of silence, he claims that they have somehow moved away from the topic, and in any case, he will try to find out what is the matter, and then asks if the guys want to tell him anything else. Barden says there's more to it, and he'll get straight to the point. Then the guy claims that the Duke of Yales hangs around Yvonne and doesn't leave her behind, and the guy is courting his sister in this way. That rumors about their date reached all the way to the Imperial Palace, as well as the Academy. The Duke of Yales is kind to everyone, so Barden is worried about how he may mislead Yvonne and hurt her feelings. The young lady claims that this is not so at all, and that those around her misunderstood everything. But the father cries out that if the Duke flirts with Yvonne again, then let the son immediately tell him, and the father himself will talk to him. The main character only thinks why no one listens to her, but then the maid turns to them from behind the door and reports that a guest has arrived to see the lady. Brother and father are a little wary of this because this has never happened before, so it seems very surprising to them. And the main character asks who came there. At this time, Cordelia is standing on the street with a box in her hands, waiting for her to be let in. A little time later, the young lady is already sitting with a cup of tea. She realizes that the girl in front of her is very sweet, like the spring sun, and just looking at her you feel so calm, because it seems like the princess can calm even a monster. Yvonne wonders if she is the main character Cordelia. Looking at her with silver hair, she realizes that she didn't want to meet her, But since it happened like this, she has the feeling that the girl is some kind of star. The young lady doesn't understand whether there was such a scene in the plot and why the princess came to her. The brown-haired woman just puts down her mug and thanks the girl for agreeing to accept her despite the sudden visit. Yes. Then she says that, to be honest, she thought that the young lady would refuse the meeting. Cordelia says she knows what the young lady doesn't like. The lady with silver hair thinks that the main character knows about this and came anyway. Therefore, she thinks about what she wants to say that is so important, although the girl does not dislike her, and you think that you need to be kind to the princess so that she will stop being so wary. The lady with silver hair says that this is true and it happened, but now she has no reason to dislike the princess. The brown-haired woman tearfully asks if this means that the girl believes that she can win the heart of the prince. The lady with silver hair is shocked by this, and the brown-haired girl at this time thinks that the purpose of her visit today consists of 3 points. The first is to check what Miss Argentrose knows about her, the second is to get rid of Barden's bracelet, and the third is to make sure that the young lady can no longer interfere with her plans. Yvonne at this time says that she does not know why the girl thinks so, but the main character interrupts her and says that Yvonne was recently on a date with the Duke of Yales. The brown-haired woman thinks that in order for the girl not to suspect her, some kind of reliable cover is necessary. Therefore, she claims that when she heard about this, she thought that Yvonne was trying to forget the prince, and finally admitted their relationship. The lady with silver hair says that the girl is absolutely right, and she no longer has any emotions for both of them. But the brown-haired woman only asks why the young lady then specially catches the prince's eye. Yvonne asks what she's talking about, and the girl claims that the young lady was on a date in Natsiel, which is located not far from the imperial palace, and even started these rumors. The brown-haired woman says that as far as she knows, this method is constantly resorted to in high society. Hey, a girl plays for the public by choosing a wealthy and influential partner to attract male attention. The young lady is shocked by such a statement, and the main viewer continues and asks whether the girl is using the Duke of Yales to make the prince become interested in her. Cordelia thinks that the excuse that the naive princess is burning with jealousy and comes to her rival is excellent. At this time, the father almost burns with anger. He and his son are outside the door. The man screams for the young man to let him go and asks if he heard this nonsense. But Lisa Barden tells her father to calm down because if he gets angry with this princess now, it will only hurt Yvonne. The father cries out and asks his son to stand and watch this. He claims that as a father and Duke of Argentrose, he is not able to calmly observe this conversation and asks if the third prince has still sent an answer. Barden says that he completely forgot to say that the prince wrote about feeling unwell and therefore refused the meeting. At this time, the blonde, after burning the letters, says that this is a little surprising because letters came from the most famous and influential dukes in the empire. This young man is Felix Delk-Verbant, the third prince. Suddenly, someone turns to the blonde and offers to look at something. The young man already thinks that it's a pity, but he won't be able to meet the dukes. He approaches an old lady who says that the grass has a beard and looks like it's a man. The blonde man comes up to his mother and says that it looks like that. He understands that he must protect his mother and his peace of mind. 18 years ago, Empress Giselle, who lost 2 children, she adopted the son of the concubine of the 4th Prince Adrian and proclaimed him crown prince. The aristocrats whispered among themselves. One of them claimed that the 3rd Prince Felix, the son of concubine Evelyn, was an intelligent and capable person, but he did not understand why the empress decided to make a 4-year-old boy heir. And the second man claimed that in addition, the 4th prince was born from a woman. Chili's mouth was quite ordinary. After this, that part of the aristocracy that supported the 3rd prince began to express their discontent. They wondered whether it would be better to convince the emperor to change this decision. But after the meeting of the aristocrats with the emperor, the head of the empire called Felix. The boy greeted Her Highness. The empress claimed that he looked weak and asked if anything hurt the boy. The young man claimed that no, and he was completely fine. But the head of the empire said that it was okay if the boy sometimes behaved like a child and was a little capricious. After all, it is immediately clear from him that something has happened and he will tell the doctors, so let the young man go to them and take the medicine. But the guy did not take the medicine. The doctor argued that this is a very valuable medicine, so the baby should not tell anyone about it or give it to anyone, because he must take it himself. Although the boy was young, he understood what kind of potion it was, so he did not stop thinking about it for several days, but he had no other choice. The young man understood that if he were not there, then his mother would be able to live in peace. But after drinking this liquid, he realized that there was water there, and then he heard his mother scream in his room. The boy immediately turned around and began to run into the room, and when he entered there, he saw a terrible picture of his mother lying on the floor. The maid claimed that, fortunately, the lady was saved, but I greatly influenced her state of mind, which may last her whole life. Now she is holding flowers in her hands and claims that Felix loves them very much. The young man asks if his mother planted them for him. Previously, she answers that, yes, she likes them too, and she likes her son too. The blonde thanks his mother. He understands that he got this life thanks to his mother's sacrifice, and to protect her, he should no longer be seen. He remembers how the woman said let him go to the doctors and take medicine from them. A short time later, the father of the main characters in the magic tower, he realizes that the third prince's answer about the state of his health is a clear excuse. And it looks like the guy is afraid to once again catch the eye of the Empress. The man wonders if Felix really thinks he can protect himself and his world in this way. After all, if so, it's too irresponsible. But suddenly, the young lady's father bumps into someone. The stranger apologizes and says that he blocked the Duke's path. The man claims that there is nothing wrong, and when he looks up, he sees a brunette. The young man asks if the man is the owner of the tower and claims that they have not seen each other for a long time. The brunette claims to be Rodnane Yels and then bows his head to the young lady's father. The man apologizes and says that the young man has grown so much that he did not recognize him, and Rodnane has become as handsome as his father. The brunette thanks the owner of the tower and says that he is the same as the young man saw him in childhood, and a similar time passes by him. The father of the main character understands that the guy is really unusual, as he heard, because his appearance and manner of speech are very good. The man is very wary. He understands that he made a mistake and thinks why he arranged a date for his daughter with such a young man. The man thanks him for such words and then asks what Rodnane is doing in this tower. The brunette says that, to be honest, he came to find out if there was a teacher for a newbie like him. The father of the lady with silver hair asks why the guy needs this, since he is already a swordmaster. The young man looks at the man and says that after his arrival in the capital, he saw many magical objects that simplify life, and the magic impressed him very much. And most importantly, there are monsters that can only be defeated with the help of it. Moreover, you can also heal, which can be useful in war, but then the changes will affect the entire Yales family, who protects the northern lands. The man thinks how in a family that sacredly believed in the power of the sword, there was such a wise young man with deep thoughts. Kaiser's level of alertness immediately decreases, and the young man says that the owner of the tower once helped his late father. Therefore, he always treated him with great respect and gratitude. The main character's father waves his hands and says that he did what he had to do, and says what a modest guy he is. And the young man only adds that the man is also a wonderful person who raised such a beautiful daughter. The Kaiser understands that in addition to a trained body and a pleasant character, the young man also understands people, and perhaps he is much better than the man thought. The young lady's father claims that everything is true and that he has a beautiful daughter. The Duke then says that he cannot understand the man who hurt her. Then the young lady's father cries out that everything is exactly like that and asks the Duke of Yels if he thinks the same. Kaiser says he has a lot to say about this guy. When they are already heading to the office of the young lady's father, he says that everyone reveres the prince as a war hero, which is why he behaves so arrogantly, and, besides, he has a lot of problems. A little time after the owner of the tower expressed everything, he thinks that his soul became lighter, but he didn't even expect that they would be able to find a common language so quickly. The man asks, how about we continue the conversation at his estate over dinner? The brunette says that it will be an honor for him, and he will certainly come. The Kaiser says goodbye to him, and says that then they will meet in the evening. Now the main character is sitting with Cordelia, but the girl understands that something is wrong there. So she asks the young lady to answer honestly. She understands that if this is the same Yvonne Argentros, then she should already be angry and lose her temper. But the young lady just calmly asks if this is all the princess wanted to talk about. Cordelia is shocked by this, and the young lady says that she was just curious because the princess arrived at such an early hour, so the girl thought that she had some serious business. The main character only wonders if the girl is really testing her, because judging by this strange manner of speech, it feels like Yvonne is interrogating her. But who knows, maybe this girl is much more dangerous than she thinks, so the princess decides that she needs to get rid of her before things go too far. The brown-haired woman cries out what could be more important than this, and claims that it seems the young lady still has not understood the whole essence of the situation, and although she can say that she did not have any intentions, who will believe her words? After all, she is the same villain who is ready to do anything just to get the prince. You are already rumored in high society that she is using the Duke of Yales for her own selfish purposes. The brown-haired woman asks why she and the prince and Duke of Gels should suffer because of her alone. Cordelia tells her to answer directly unless she's the type who likes a tarnished reputation. The princess understands that if she adds fuel to the fire to anger the girl and make her go crazy, then she will destroy herself. The brown-haired woman thinks that, as she always does, she will destroy what is bothering her, burn it, and break it so that it goes away on its own. The main character thinks that she will turn the young lady into a criminal, who tried twice, and will also kill the future wife of the crown prince. And what could be better than such an ending? Yvonne raises her hand, and the main character becomes a little wary. She understands that the girl was caught, and now she will ruin her own life. But the main character only sticks a fork into the cake. She claims that, of course, it's a pity that such rumors are circulating, but she just told the whole truth about her feelings. Cordelia is shocked to realize that her plan didn't work. Yvonne claims that the most important thing is that the prince has such a sweet bride, and he pays absolutely no attention to her. Then the lady with silver hair asks why he should be so afraid. She takes the teapot and says that if there are any problems, then it is best for the princess to talk about it with the prince in person. And you shouldn't involve strangers in your affairs. This makes the main character blush and scream. But then Barden comes into the room and says that this is enough. He claims that he was passing by and overheard their conversation, so if the lady continues to insult his sister, he will no longer tolerate it. The brown-haired girl thinks that the guy himself treated his sister as if she didn't exist, and now he's suddenly pretending to be a caring brother. But the girl understands that nothing can be done and she will have to retreat, so Cordelia needs to come up with another plan to harm the girl. The brown-haired woman says that she is ashamed of her behavior because she could not control her emotions and allowed herself too much, although this is just an excuse. But she was confused by this gift from the prince. The main character, looking at the box, asks what is there, and the girl claims that there is a gift that the prince gave to her through the maid. Barden just asks what this has to do with the situation. Cordelia, with a sad expression on her face, says that this gift was not intended for her, because the young lady herself will understand this when she reads the note, because it is her gift. Barden just looks at the box, puzzled, and the main character says that she will not justify her behavior, but wants them to know that she did not have any ill intentions towards the young lady, so she bows and leaves. Yvonne and her brother just look after the main character, after which Barden turns to the young lady. He asks how his sister endured this with her character, and the princess even leaves there alive. Yvonne just smiles in response to this. She says that all this is thanks to her brother. After all, he couldn't find a place for himself standing outside the door, so the girl was afraid that if she did something, the guy would lose consciousness. Barden just asked how she knew, and when she realized it. But the young lady only says that she has good hearing, and she forgives what the young man overheard, but only today. And in her thoughts, she adds that these are not just words, because she is really glad that Barden was there, because she could say whatever she wanted, because she knew that the young man would take action if something happened. The girl remembers that even she was angry, and the lady with silver hair is afraid to imagine what the real Yvonne would have felt. She thinks that this meeting would not have ended with just one conversation, and, at best, it would have taken 30 weeks to completely recover from the wounds. But she tries not to get between them. Barden heads to the door and says that about this box, let the girl not dare open it and let him give it to him, because he will throw it away on the way. But the young lady claims that there is no need, and she will figure it out herself. Then the young man, closing the door, tells her to throw it out herself because he will check when he returns. Yvonne is now looking at the box and wondering what could have made Cordelia so angry. The princess, while in the carriage, calls for Pamber, after which an evil spirit appears in the air. He asks if the young lady called him, and Cordelia asks what's wrong with the bracelet. Pamber claims that he found it and asks if he should destroy the bracelet right now. The brown-haired woman says that if the bracelet disappears immediately after her visit, then they may suspect her, so they can observe it, and then destroy it when the opportunity arises. The girl understands that the bracelet has been resolved, and only Miss Argentrose remains. The princess heard that she had changed a lot, but thought that it was all a trick. The prince asked the servant if the lady had been leaving the house for several days, and the young man replied that, yes, she was thinking about her behavior and was also being careful in her actions. The blonde asked who would believe that the young lady was thinking and being careful because the girl was a dangerous person who almost killed Cordelia, so the service should not lose vigilance and continue to monitor her. The princess understands that people do not change so quickly, but today, the lady she met did not look like the villainous Yvonne. Cordelia turns around and thinks that she is not at all moved by the gift that the prince supposedly sent. The princess suddenly thinks that she really is using the source of the sun, because it is a means of raising the mood of stupid aristocrats. It was added to water while taking a bath to make the skin more radiant, but if you constantly use it, then the drug, on the contrary, can cause an unpleasant-looking skin disease. And the princess is the only one who knows how to treat this disease. That is, only she can become their savior. And when they begin to praise her for this free salvation, she will tame the lady in the same way. Cordelia sighs heavily, and the spirit asks if there are any problems and if the young lady wants to help. The princess only asks what it means to help and what the spirit is talking about. Pamber claims that he saw something before leaving the room. After all, the girl also emanated dark magic, so he thought that the princess was trying to lure her to her side. The main character is shocked by this. The girl thinks why she didn't realize it earlier. After all, if the young lady is a dark magician, then it is clear how she found out about the monster and why she heard sounds despite the barrier. Cordelia didn't think she would turn out to be a dark wizard. The girl thanks Pember for the valuable information and tells him to return to the estate and finish his job, but he must be careful not to be noticed. The brown-haired woman understands that she seems to have found a way out, because all she has to do is accuse the young lady of using dark magic, and the imperial palace will do the rest. And getting evidence for the main character is not difficult, so she will certainly marry the prince. Even if you have to remove those who are in the way, at this time the Duke on horseback passes by the carriage. The guy realizes that he has been invited to dinner and wonders if he is going too early. Then he comes closer to the mansion and wonders if he will be able to see Yvonne today. But suddenly the young man sees a lady with silver hair open the window and then throw something. It turns out to be a magical earring. The Duke is a little wary seeing how strangely it glows. But then the earring explodes. 15 minutes ago, the main character was reading a sheet from the prince. It was written there that the young man was very sorry because Yvonne did not come to the tea party where he invited her, and the prince assumed that she was very busy. But he was visited by thoughts that he had treated Lady Yvonne too harshly, which could have greatly upset. Also, while drinking tea, he accidentally learned about this bath product, which is popular among young ladies, so he thinks that the girl will like it. Lady with silver hair. Now she understands why the main character was so angry, because the young man behaves disgustingly. The girl looks at the bath product and thinks that she thinks it looks quite expensive, so it's better to throw it away. But suddenly, from behind the doors, the maid turns to Madame Yvonne tells her to come in. Then the maid enters the young lady's chambers and reports that a message has just arrived from Faretro, saying that they can start making cosmetics from the rhodia herb. The lady with silver hair asks if this is true, and then says that this is great, because now all that remains is to decide what kind of products they will produce. Carol asks if the lady has any ideas, and the girl says that she doesn't even know. She remembers that the letter said that this bath product is now popular among aristocrats. And this is an excellent example of a product that will be in demand in the summer. The young lady is wondering whether it is worth taking advantage of this, because rumors about new cosmetics will quickly spread. Then she jumps up from her seat and says that she has decided that they will make bath products. The maid says it's a great idea. And then he asks if the girl has a source of the sun in her hands. Yvonne asks if that's what this thing is called. The maid replies that, yes, this is the same product that makes the skin look like silk. It has become so popular that now it is not easy to purchase even for a lot of money. The main character asks how much they sell such a product for. Then Carol thinks and says that for one bottle, as far as she knows, about 10 million gold. The main character is shocked by the amount announced. She realizes that she almost threw away 10 million. The young lady puts the money back in the box and thinks that she should keep it and then sell it. The maid's wife asks if this is by chance a gift from the Duke of Gels. After these words, the young lady's hand trembles. The girl remembers the young man, and because of this she blushes all over, but she tries not to show it and says that Carol has a bad habit of thinking that everyone loves her. The maid says that it is impossible not to fall in love with such an ideal lady, and if she were a man, she would give her gifts every day. The main character says it's useless anyway, but then notices something strange. She turns to Carol and points to her earrings, which begin to glow brighter. As soon as the young lady saw the unpleasant shine of the earrings, she was suddenly overcome by a familiar feeling of madness. The girl grabbed the earring from the maid's ear and ran to the window. And when I opened it, I immediately threw out the earring. At that moment, she acted with the expectation that there was no one in the garden, but when she realized that she was mistaken, the job was already done when the earring exploded and the room was immediately filled with smoke. The main character understood that Rodney seemed to be there. She immediately looked out the window with her excitement. But the sight of the young man safe and sound thinks what a blessing it is that he is alive. The guy just looks at her with misunderstanding and some sadness, and the lady with silver hair thinks that this is really a great relief. But she doesn't understand what to say now and whether the young man will believe that it was a mistake. The maid just comes up from behind and asks if the lady is okay. The main character immediately turns to her maid and says that everything is fine with her, and then asks if Carol was hurt. The girl says no, and thanks to the lady, she is safe and sound. The main character looks at the devastation in the room and says how good it is that Carol hurt me, but it's better for her to rest. The maid claims that there is nothing wrong and she will call people to clean the room. Then Yvonne says that she is asking for a favor because now she needs to go out, because the explosion hit the Duke of Yale's. The maid is excited and asks how this could happen and says that it is all because of her, and then asks if everything is okay with the Duke. Yvonne asks why the maid thinks that it's all because of her, because it was she who gave the maid the bomb and she also threw it, so Carol doesn't have to worry about it. And when the girl closes the door to her room, she immediately starts running. She thinks in horror what she should do now. Going down the stairs, the main character thinks about how she could throw a bomb at him. At this time, all the servants gathered near the door. Yvonne wonders why the earring exploded at that very moment. At this time, a lot of people also gathered on the street. Suddenly, someone told them to move aside. After all, the lady is coming. One of the servants says that the lady was never interested in family affairs. The authors cry out for people to disperse as soon as possible. Yvonne, examining the territory, realizes that everything looks intact, but she thought that everything there was destroyed. But suddenly, the knight does not turn and asks if the lady guessed it too, because how can she see, despite the loudness of the bomb explosion, there is not much damage. After all, Herzogi gels appeared just in time, and the cheese absorbed the blast wave with the help of an aura. Someone shouts that the swordmaster is truly magnificent. The knight claims that they will certainly find the criminal, and the lady with silver hair answers in her thoughts that it is not necessary. She elbows the knight and asks if he can move away. The girl thinks where to start and whether it is better to apologize first. She approaches the Duke. The servants at this time ask if the Duke is okay and offer healing, but the young man claims that everything is fine with him, and then he sees Yvonne and smiles at her. The girl understands that she has not yet decided what to tell him, but she is a little scared because the young man seems very angry to her. The main character realizes that she seems to have finally lost her head. The servants gossip among themselves and say how these two fit together. Rodney is still looking at the young lady, and the girl understands that this is not at all true to believe the guy is looking sideways at her. But in reality, Yvonne was simply imagining the worst-case scenario. The young lady asks if Herzogi was hurt. The guy says that he's fine, he just didn't expect this. He looks at the bouquet and said that he was going to give it to Yvonne, but while he was getting the ball, the flowers turned into this. The lady with silver hair thinks why he wanted to give her flowers. The girl says that she is glad because Herzogi was not hurt. In her thoughts, she wonders if Rodney could come empty-handed. She understands that this is a sign of politeness, or thinks that this gesture should be perceived that way. The young lady approaches the brunette and asks if she can take this bouquet, because the Duke was going to give it to her. The girl claims that she just needed something to decorate the room. The brunette says that he can go and buy a new one, but the main character says that she likes this one and thanks the Duke. After which the girl asks why he came to the Argentrose estate, and the young man replies that the owner of the tower invited him to dinner. The lady with silver hair doesn't even know what to answer. After a moment of silence, she smiles and says that Rodney is quite early. The guy claims that he had business nearby and quickly freed himself. Yvonne. She thinks that this doesn't look like a lie, but she doesn't understand why her father called the Duke, and even if it's true, the young man's arrival too early could mean some other intentions. But suddenly, a knight approaches these two and informs the lady that he is the chief of the guard. He reports that there was an explosion and an unknown bomb in front of the estate and asks if the lady knows anything about it. The main character doesn't even know what to answer, and the knight says that there are no other witnesses to the incident besides the Duke of Gels, who happened to be at the scene. But Hertz OG says that he knows nothing, and no other evidence was found either. The lady with silver hair just looks at the young man in surprise and asks if he said that he doesn't know anything. The guy nods with a smile on his face, while the knight stands in bewilderment. Then Accepted turns to him and says that the similar lady also has no idea who it is. He claims that he will tell the knight if he remembers something, so for now he can check other people. The man bows and says that he will return to them with a report a little later. Then the Duke smiles and asks Yvonne if she can accompany him. The girl says that of course she will take him to the living room, and she herself thinks whether the Duke wants to agree with her on something, because he may demand compensation, or he may begin to threaten that he will ruin her life if she throws another bomb at him. But the lady with silver hair is, of course, grateful to the young man that he did not accuse her in front of others. As they approach the living room, the girl realizes that she is scared to even think about what could happen. And when they enter the room, the Duke asks if this is Lady Yvonne's private living room. The girl says that, yes, and she thinks that the living room on the first floor is too noisy. The young man claims that the glass is broken, and it seems that the shockwave was too strong, and then asks if Yvonne is okay. The girl replies that yes, she was just a little scared. She understands that she didn't notice in that commotion, but it's a little strange because no matter how strong Yvonne is, it's incredible because neither her hair nor her clothes were damaged. The Duke only says that this is a great relief, and the girl claims that she is also glad that Mr. Rodnine was not hurt and also thanks him. The brunette asks what she is talking about, and the young lady replies that he didn't give her away, and this incident was a mistake, so she asks for forgiveness. The guy asks if it was really a mistake. The lady with silver hair says that there was a breakdown in the artifact, and she spontaneously threw it outside, and a guy was just passing by. The young lady says she thought there was no one on the street. The brunette asks if she means that the bomb was about to explode, so the girl threw it out the window. The main character replies that everything is exactly like that, and the guy asks if he can ask why the girl didn't use protection magic then. Yvonne thinks that he is very smart, and yet court investigators are different from ordinary people. The girl is trying to justify herself, but she doesn't have the slightest idea how to do it. At this time, Hertz OG is just approaching her. The young lady is thinking about what to answer, and suddenly she says something wrong, after which she will be arrested. The girl thinks whether she should tell the whole truth that she cannot use magic. Suddenly, the brunette comes even closer and addresses the lady with silver hair. He asks if the girl could have deliberately thrown a bomb at him. The main character is shocked and wonders if the guy thinks it was intentional. But if she talks about her illness, she might be able to convince him. After all, the problem is that rumors may spread about this, and then everyone who is opposed to Yvonne will try to harm her all at once. The girl thinks whether she can resist them, but if she doesn't answer anything, she will become a criminal who again tried to cause harm with the help of magic, and this is not the first time. Then neither Father Barden nor the others will believe her anymore. The girl is silent for a bit, and then he says that, to be honest, the young man is overstaying his welcome and says that means he was right. The main character, shocked by this, asks what he is talking about, and the Duke asks if she tried to test him like that. The lady with silver hair doesn't understand what he's talking about. A little time ago, when the guy realized that he was not just interested in Yvonne, he wanted to become the most important fish in her aquarium. However, the young man spent almost his entire life in the Duchy of Gels and knew nothing about her. The young man had a desire to fill these gaps in their relationship, so he began to look for any information about Lady Argentrose. And the more he got to know her, the more behind such eccentric behavior he saw an attempt to express his sympathy to one person, Prince Adrian. The guy doesn't understand what it was about him that could make Yvonne want his love so much, and if the girl gives him a chance, he can prove that he's worthy of her attention. He will prove which of them is better able to meet her expectations. And when I suddenly saw the light of an exploding bomb, I felt confusion and at the same time joy. After all, perhaps this is the chance that Yvonne gives him, because the ugly prince is a master of the sword, so comparison cannot be avoided. The brunette claims that whatever the reason, he's not going to blame her, but the lady doesn't have to worry either. The girl says that he seems to have misunderstood everything and offers to sit down and talk. Then the Duke agrees. A little time later, they are already sitting opposite each other, and the girl understands that it is thinking that she is testing him, but she behaves very calmly. The young lady asks Togo to listen and asks if the guy said that she was trying to test him. The girl thinks why she should check the Duke at all. Then the young man replies that maybe he was mistaken. But he thought that the young lady wanted to test his abilities, and the situation was just similar. The main character thinks what this means, and then wonders if he really means it. The explosion at Natsiel when she threw a bomb at Cordelia. Well, then the prince protected Cordelia from the blast wave. But the girl does not understand what this has to do with the test. But then the silver-haired lady realizes that Rodnine could understand that she knows who he is. He thinks that the girl set up a similar situation and specifically wanted to check whether he was secretly sent by the prince or not. But still, his calm attitude speaks volumes. That she cannot escape responsibility and cannot hide from him no matter what the young lady does. So she will have to choose and tell her about the magical memory loss and give up her own safety or continue to be a dangerous person for him. Therefore, the main character turns to Mr. Rodnine and asks if he said that he does not blame the young lady for anything. After the Duke replies that of course it is, Yvonne still asks her to forgive her because, to be honest, she really was testing him, and Mr. turned out to be a very noble man. The main character thinks that now she will see how kind the brunette turns out to be. The lady with silver hair asks if he could not tell that person about this, and in her thoughts adds that if he doesn't say anything, then no one will even know about her illness. But the Duke only asks who she is talking about. Then the main character replies that she is talking about His Highness the Prince. The Duke, in response to this, only puts his glass back with a knock, and the young lady wonders if she has angered him. The guy claims that he cannot understand why the girl suddenly started talking about the prince. The main character understands that naturally the Duke did not like this, because it is his responsibility to report everything to the prince. The girl understands that it is not enough that she arranged a check and even made such a request, but the Duke has such a face as if she knows no boundaries at all. The lady with silver hair apologizes and claims that she didn't think. That's why she said too much. But Rodnine only turns to her and says that about what happened today. He comes closer to her and sits on the sofa, and then claims that he will not tell not only the prince, but to no one else, after which the young man extends his hand. The main character, in response to this, extends her hand too. After which the guy puts an earring on her hand and says that she shouldn't worry so much. After all, he doesn't want to see the young lady in this state. Yvonne realizes that this is the same earring that she threw out the window. The girl understands that the young man is ready to do this even at the expense of his duties, but she does not understand why and asks about it. The brunette claims that this concerns only the two of them and asks why other people should know about it. The main character blushes at this answer and thinks that he believes that this incident has nothing to do with his investigation. The girl says that since the Duke says so, she will agree, and then thanks the young man. The girl thinks that it is good that the Duke turned out to be so kind, and perhaps even he sincerely believes that Yvonne can apologize. The brunette claims that then he himself will deal with the head of the guard. The main character is already worried about this boss, but the Duke says that it is necessary to finish the investigation of this matter, after which he puts his hand in his pocket. The young lady sighs because she thought that the young man was going to finish off that guard, and Rodnane takes a communication artifact out of his pocket and claims that he used it in the Duchy of Yales. Therefore, they can pretend that it exploded for some unknown reason, after which the Duke crumbles the decoration in his hands. The main character says that he told the chief of the guard that he doesn't know anything and asks if the Duke thinks that he will believe. The brunette claims that to the young lady he is Rodnine, but to the chief of the guard he is the Duke of Yales, so it is natural that he will believe it. Yvonne understands that the young man will put pressure on him with his authority, and for some reason, such care suggests that she is special to him. The girl claims that in this case she will feel guilty, and a number says that she shouldn't think so, although if the young lady is so worried about it, then she could fulfill one of his requests. A short time later, Barden screams, asking Kuvin what happened there and what kind of bomb is on the estate. The servant asks if this is the master, and then claims that he has just finished his investigation. He remembers how the Duke claimed that the explosion was due to a problem with his artifact, and the investigation would be completed in the Duchy of Gels, so they could finish the search. Now the knight claims that there was an error with the communication artifact of the Duke of Yales, which caused an explosion. Barden says it's good that it wasn't an attack, and asks if the Duke is okay. The knight claims that he used aura and softened the explosion without receiving a single scratch, and now he went for a walk in the garden with his mistress. The main character's brother is shocked by this and cries out whether they are alone in the garden. The knight does not know what to answer to this, and Barden is already running into that very garden. He claims that he knew that this would happen and wonders why his father invited him. The guy thinks whether this naughty Yvonne took his words seriously, because if so, he urgently needs to see them. The brunette, while walking with the main character, claims that he told the chief of the guard to stop the search. The lady with silver hair thanks him and claims that she is ready to fulfill any request of the Duke. The brunette then claims that she doesn't know what he's going to ask. He leans towards the young lady, and the girl blushes a little at this. And then she claims that if the young man asks her for 20 billion, she is unlikely to be able to fulfill it. The brunette says that he will not ask for this because the young lady can run away. The young man combs the main character's hair and claims that his request is not very difficult. Then he asks if the young lady can call him Rod. The main character is a little surprised, and the guy adds that this is his affectionate name and he wants the girl to perceive him a little closer. The main character says that of course she will fulfill this request, but will it really suit the Duke? Yvonne wonders if the Duke wants them to become closer, because if so, she doesn't understand him at all. The young man agrees and says that this will be enough for him. Lady Cheese with ridged hair sighs. She doesn't think that the Duke has any interest in her because it is unclear what goals he is pursuing. The young lady agrees, after which he calls the brunette by his affectionate name. But then the young lady asks if it was too sudden, but she thought that she should start right now. The guy says no, and it's simple, but suddenly someone screams his name. The silver-haired leadership wonders what kind of déjà vu this is, and when he turns around, he sees his brother running with all his might. Yvonne wonders if he's even breathing. When her brother finally runs up, the main character thinks that he looks like a fawn because Barden's legs are shaking. The guy claims that he rushed over as soon as he heard the news and asks if the Duke is okay. After the brunette replies that he is fine, the main character's brother claims that he would like to tell him something and asks if they can talk in private. The Duke thinks about what he is going to talk about and hopes that the guy will not say all sorts of strange things so that he does not approach Yvonne, after which he agrees and says that he just wanted to talk to Barden. The girl says that then she will probably sing. When the young lady leaves, the Duke invites Barden to speak first. The young lady's brother claims, what he believes made clear last time is that he should not approach his sister with frivolous feelings. Rodnine realizes that there is a reason why the eldest Duke of Argentrose and his son are so against him. The point is that they are afraid that Yvonne will get love again. Therefore, the brunette says that he fully understands his feelings, and why he said so, the young man can be calm and believe that he is not going to hurt his sister's feelings. Barden realizes that again this smile has charmed him, and at this time the Duke begins to approach closer and closer. Rodnan asks if now he can say what he wanted. The young lady's brother claims that he would have waited, but the brunette understands that he found out all the information about them so that he could calmly meet with Yvonne. So he puts his hands on Barden's shoulders and says that there are rumors that he is quite an erudite person in the theory of magic, and also has the skill of teaching. And after hearing such reviews about Barden, he was convinced that he had found the right person. The young lady's brother asks what the Duke is talking about, and Rodnine understands that he will attack these two first. That same evening, everyone gathers for a meal at the table. The main character thinks what these two were talking about because they all suddenly became friends. Rodnine at the table says that he believes it is necessary to replace the forces that have long stood to protect against monsters in all parts of the Empire. Barden says that's true, but it would cost a lot of money to replace it. So many are against it. Then the Duke asks how about they propose this idea together, because it's all for the safety of the Empire. Katzer says that the young man is so rooting for the country, and this attitude instills pride and peace for the future of the Empire. The brunette claims that he is also calm because the capital is guarded by such outstanding personalities as the Duke of Argentrose and his son. The young lady realizes that a distance seems to have been created between them, but suddenly the girl hears some gossip. One of the maids claims that since the death of the Duchess, this is the first time they have had dinner together in such a pleasant atmosphere. And the second one adds that with such a handsome suitor for their young mistress. The girl thinks that in general, this guy is not her boyfriend, and if he were, he would pay more attention to her. And the Duke communicates only with his father and Barden. The lady with silver hair is silent for a moment. She remembers how she entered the hall and apologized for being a little late. Duke, I rose from my chair and told Yvonne that she looked beautiful. The girl understands that after that, he didn't say a word to her, but he himself asked to call him affectionately and is now so cold. She looks at her glass and thinks that there was nothing between them anyway, so there is no point in showing dissatisfaction. A few minutes later, the young lady's father and brother were already drunk, although they only drank half a glass. The young lady realizes that she cannot look at this, and the Duke claims that they seem to be a little tipsy, but Yvonne's father screams that this is not at all true. But the main character realizes that she can no longer tolerate these two drunkards, and then finishes her meal. And gets up from her seat. She asks for forgiveness and leaves, after which the young lady sits on a bench in the courtyard. The girl sighs and understands that there is no point in going back there because it is just boring, so she will stay here for now. But suddenly she hears someone approaching from behind, after which the young lady turns around and asks who is there. It turns out to be one of the maids, and she turns to the mistress. The girl thinks that it was the maid who sometimes went with Carol. The main character tells her to come over because she doesn't want to strain her throat, and then asks what happened. The maid bows and says that her name is Udella Rognall, and she asks you to forgive her for her insolence and claims that she came to the mistress with a request. Yvonne realized that the servants had never addressed her personally before. Therefore, she tells the maid to speak. The girl also notices that in the hospital room, she is shaking all over and seems to be afraid of Yvonne. Udella kneels before the mistress and cries out, asking her to sell her the source of the sun. The main character asks if she is talking about the source of the sun, and the girl says that, and to be honest, her sister has been suffering from a skin disease for a long time, and she heard that the source of the sun can heal any skin disease. But no matter how hard the maid tried, she was unable to acquire this remedy. The girl, with tears in her eyes, claims that she recently learned that the young lady was given a source of sun. Therefore, she says that if the mistress is not going to use it, but the main character interrupts her and only asks what she is talking about, and she herself thinks whether this product had such an effect. The maid apologizes for daring to turn to her mistress with such a request. She thinks that she has probably crossed all boundaries and does not understand what will happen to her now. However, Yvonne says that she understood the maid, but she is not going to sell the source of the sun, but she was interested in this story. Therefore, the main character wipes the tears from the maid's cheeks and tells her to bring her sister. After the lady with silver hair gets up, she realizes that she didn't think there was a similar product. But her business with rhodia herb could fail. Well, if the source of the sun can heal various skin diseases, why wasn't this mentioned in the book then? The maid complains to the lady and asks if she can ask about the reason why the young lady wants to see her sister. The girl claims that the Udella family are aristocrats and says that 10 years ago, the daughter of Viscount Rognalla took lessons to become an heiress, but the right to inherit the title passed to her cousin, and the daughters of Viscount Rognall ended up on the street. The main character asks if this is a story about her sister's maid. The maid is silent for a while, and then claims that, yes, that's right. Now the three of them live outside the city with their mother. The lady with silver hair understands from her place and claims that if the girl's sister received lessons from the heiress of the family, then she must be very smart. And there is one matter that her sister can help with, and it is of course not free, because if she accepts the conditions, Yvonne will give her the source of the sun. The main character claims that she would like to discuss the details with her personally and extending her hand to the maid. Udella agrees and says that tomorrow she will bring her sister to her mistress. The main character thinks that if this is not in the book, then she will have to find out everything herself. At this time, the young lady's father rises from the table and claims that in order to continue their conversation, he must sober up and return, after which one of the butlers takes him away, and Rodnan tells him to rest. When his father leaves, Barden claims that he thinks about what the Duke told him during the day in a positive way. Rodnan, with a smile on his face, asks if this is true, and if the guy agrees to become his magic teacher, and Barden says that he himself suggested this to him in the garden. The brunette thanks him, and the young man says that the Duke should not do anything that could hurt his sister Yvonne. The brunette only asks with a surprised expression on his face whether the young lady's brother really considers him such a rude person. Barden claims that this is not what he meant, and anyone would say that he is a noble, handsome, and exemplary gentleman. But that's not the problem, because the Duke knows why the young lady liked this lousy prince so much. After all, there weren't even any decisive factors, because as far as Barden knows, they didn't really talk. Just when they collided and the prince apologized, who looked like such a clear and pure person. Of course, there may be other reasons that he doesn't know about, but what is certain is that Yvonne can easily fall in love. So the young lady's brother says that he hopes the Duke doesn't have any intentions towards his sister unless he's also the type to fall in love right away. Barden advises Rodnine not to give her any hope. Then he puts down his glass and says that, although fortunately, Yvonne is not the least bit interested in the Duke. The brunette asks why the young man thinks so. The young man with silver hair says that the Duke's gift, which he gave her on a date, Barden claims that he does not know what was in it. But the young lady claimed that she wanted to grind it into powder and drink it, after which the guy claims that it could have been tea, because if so, then it's understandable. The Duke fills his glass with wine and drinks it at once, after which he tells him to pour him another glass. Barden says that the brunette seems to like wine. The agency replies that it is so fragrant today. The young lady's brother says that this is good wine and invites the Duke to drink and enjoy. A short time later, the young man empties another bottle, after which they finish their meal. When the Duke leaves the building, he leans against one of the pillars. The guy remembers the reaction of the young lady. Singing it seemed to him that she liked that bracelet. But he remembers what the young lady's brother said and gets a little upset. The young man thinks what is in Yvonne's heart, and maybe she called him by name forcibly because he asked. But if you remember, the girl always behaved very carefully in front of him. Her gestures and facial expressions, all this could be because the guy was a burden to her, and through this, she could behave this way. But Rodnine thought that it was enough for him to be one of the fish in her aquarium. A little while ago, one of the servants asked the Duke what he said, and the brunette once again claims that he decided to study magic. Then the knight gets a little angry and screams whether he knows that using magic is against the rules of the clan. And the young man claims that he is now the Duke of Gels and is the head of the clan, so such things can change depending on the era in which they live. Then the knight asks why suddenly there is magic, and the Duke then runs up to the knight and fights with swords. At one point, he jumps over the servant and ends up behind him, after which he puts his hand on his neck. The brunette claims that now he can only control the aura, but if he has any other choice, the difference will be huge. The servant says that, to be honest, this seems like an excuse, and the Duke just wants to have something in common with Miss Argentros. The brunette claims that too. Then the knight asks if the Duke's feelings are so serious because they just met several times, and the gentleman had never been interested in beautiful young ladies, and now, when he suddenly changed, the knight began to be tormented by doubts. The Duke asks what other doubts exist, and the young man replies that Miss Argentros is an outstanding magician, and perhaps she cast a bewitching spell on him. Then the Duke asks if the servant wants to say that he cannot distinguish magic from real feelings, and the young man claims that this is not what he meant. And there are just rumors that Miss Argentros is using the Duke to attract the attention of the prince, so the gentleman should also question her behavior. The girl returns to the estate. She realizes that she wanted to put her thoughts in order a little, but so much time has passed. The young lady wonders if they have already finished dinner, and if Rodnine has left, well, she understands that now is not the time to think about it, and first she needs to return to the room. But when Yvonne passes by one of the pillars, she sees a man sitting there. The main character immediately screams in fright and moves away a little. Rodnine, looking at the young lady with sadness, asks Yvonne if this is it. The main character thinks how he scared her, but she thought that he was a sent mercenary or a monster. The guy just looks away and says that he is Rod. The young lady is embarrassed by this. She thinks what a cute young man he is and asks why Rod is sitting there. The guy gets up from his seat and claims that he appeared before the young lady in this form, but he just needed to think. Then the lady with silver hair asks what he was thinking about. The young man is only approaching her. The main character notices that his face is red. The girl thinks that such a handsome guy can be photographed from all angles and still turn out like a magazine cover. And it's good that in the past, she didn't have time for celebrities. Otherwise, she would have become a loyal fan. The guy turns to the young lady and asks if she really liked the gift. The young lady asks what he is talking about, and the brunette then says that the girl said that she would make powder out of it and drink it. The main character is shocked, wondering if Barden really told him everything. The lady with silver hair says that this is a misunderstanding, because of course she said so, but... However, the guy interrupts her and claims that it is true, and the young lady says that she really liked the gift. It was just the circumstances. The young man asks what kind of circumstances the young lady is thinking about, what she should do, and how to distract him this time. The girl looks at Rodnane and thinks that he treated her without any prejudice and also helped, and now because of her the young man has such a sad face. So the lady with silver hair thinks that she doesn't want to deceive him anymore, and then screams that he is actually her. But the guy just puts his finger to his mouth and tells her to be quiet, and she waited because someone was watching them. The young lady turns around and looks around, but behind her she sees only the window of Barden's room, and wonders if her brother has decided to spy on them. The girl claims that there is nothing wrong and the Duke need not worry. But the brunette claims that he has some kind of unpleasant feeling, so he needs to check. But the main character says that everything is in order and adds in her thoughts that he is just looking at them with his evil gaze. The young man claims that it won't take much time, but the girl thinks that she doesn't want to create awkward situations, after which she grabs the guy's hand and puts it against the wall. But since she is stronger than ordinary girls, it comes out more like a blow. Then the main character presses him to the wall and tells him to calm down because she will call the guards to check. The Duke is about to do something and reaches out his hand, but then clenches it into a fist, and looking away, he agrees with Yvonne. The main character thinks that the drunk Rodnine is quite stubborn, and yet he is so cute that he listened to her words. But suddenly, looking at the hand and the guy, the main character notices something. She sees that the wrist has turned a little red and then apologizes because she was rude. The guy says that it's okay, and looking at his wrist, he is a little surprised, because although it was just a moment, the girl got the better of him, and Yvonne is so strong. That's why the guy thinks she has a lot of talents. The main character only asks if he is angry. The young man says that there is no, and there is no reason for anger, so the girl can grab him again. Yvonne asks what he's talking about, then thanks him and says he won't. The brunette says it's a shame, then asks if the young lady was going to tell him something. The girl says that, yes, she will tell too, but the young lady claims that this is a secret and should under no circumstances be told to anyone. Rodnine leans over to her and says that if it's a secret, then he doesn't think it's worth telling it here, and the young lady doesn't have to tell him. The lady with silver hair thinks how close he is. With a reddened face, she says that she wants to tell him if the young man has no urgent matters. Yvonne doesn't know what to answer and might better suggest going somewhere else and having a cup of tea or asking if he wants to admire the moon. Therefore, the main character can't come up with anything better than inviting the young man to stay there overnight. At this time, in one of the rooms, an evil spirit crawls out from behind the bedside table. He thinks who this guy is. After all, he couldn't see him, so it looks like the young man has highly developed feelings. The evil spirit understands that if another so-and-so appears, there will be problems, so this will not work. He intended to wait 2 or 3 more days, but Cordelia was long gone. Therefore, you need to destroy the bracelet right now, after which the evil spirit begins to destroy it. But suddenly the doors behind him open, and the butler brings Barden. The evil spirit thinks why at this particular moment, and the butler asks the gentleman if he would like to take a bath. Then he sits Barden down on the sofa, and he claims that he will tell the servants to prepare everything, but he himself thinks why the chest of drawers is open. Barden tells the servant to wait and take the bracelet. The dark spirit is watching all this from under the bed, and the young lady's brother asks if the butler can have it repaired and at the same time restore the materials. The butler agrees and then leaves, and the dark spirit thinks that this is bad, but he understands that it is not too late, and he can go after the butler to destroy this bracelet, but suddenly he sees the main character. The evil spirit is angry, and in his thoughts tells the young lady not to get on his nerves and leave quickly. The main character asks the butler if he can prepare the guest room. When the butler agrees, the young lady tells the gentleman that she will pass him, and the evil spirit thinks that it is that man again. When the Duke looks at him, the spirit thinks what's the matter, and has the guy really seen him again? But then the young man simply turns around and addresses the lady with silver hair, and the evil spirit sighs, because after all, the young man did not notice him, but he understands that now he will not be able to follow him. A short time later, the main character enters the room where the Duke is lying with a glass of water. She puts the tray with a glass on the table and wonders if the young man has already fallen asleep. She comes up to him and thinks that she only went out for water. Well, it looks like the guy is very tired. The lady with silver hair thinks his eyelashes are very long, and the forehead is high and noble. The nose and lips are also beautiful. The young lady thinks that the lips are also very beautiful. She leans closer to the guy, but then the young lady's hair falls into his face, and the girl pulls away and then screams, "What is she thinking about?" And she needs to pull herself together. The main character understands that she needs to give the Duke a rest, and she will still have a chance to tell everything. But suddenly the young man grabs Yvonne's hand and asks where she is going, because the girl said that she wants to tell him something. The main character is a little embarrassed, and says that he just looks tired, so let him rest, and she herself wonders when he managed to wake up. The young man claims that he was not tired and was just waiting for Yvonne. The silver-haired lady could only hope that he had been sleeping all this time. She says that he just slept and must be tired. The guy claims that he dozed off, but now he's really fine. But the young lady just pushes him back onto the bed and tells him not to get up. This whole conversation won't take much time because she will quickly say and go. To begin with, the girl says that she wants to clarify and claims that what she said about the bracelet with Teal's. It wasn't that she didn't like him, but on the contrary, she needed a large amount of the Teal's crystal. The Duke asks if he can ask why, and the young lady notes that she cannot tell everything, but she really needs the crystal, but it is not so easy to get it. And yet, her words that she had heated his gift into powder were rudeness on her part, so the girl apologizes. But the guy claims that Yvonne has no need to apologize, because now that he has found out her true intentions, he's even glad. But if the young lady needs Teal's so much, then he wants to give more. The lady with silver hair thanks him for such words, but says that she will try to get him herself, and she herself thinks what a caring young man. She says it's good that they sorted out this misunderstanding, and then claims that it's time for her to go. But after the girl leaves, the Duke puts his hand on his face. He remembers the moment when the young lady approached him. The young man, all flushed, thinks that he really seems to have fallen under the influence of a spell. In the morning, the maid opens the curtains and asks how the lady slept. The main character wishes Carol good morning and asks if her ear is okay. The girl understands that there are no earrings, and that means it was not a dream. And the maid with a smile on her face says that, of course, everything healed quickly. Yvonne says she's glad to hear it, and also tells her in the hospital to be careful so that it doesn't fester. The girl gets up in her bed and thinks that so much happened yesterday, so it seemed to her that it was a dream. The main character asks what happened to Duke Rodnane, and the maid claims that he left early in the morning, and it suggests that something urgent might have happened. The young lady asks a little sadly if this is true, but then she thinks why she is already so sorry. She tries to drive away these thoughts from herself because she already has so much to do. First, the young lady needs to find out why the artifact suddenly exploded. Therefore, when a girl makes a light snack, then she reads the book. She understands that due to her illness, and personally, she cannot check why this artifact exploded. But the book contains Yvonne's diagrams and notes. The girl wrote everything down. The main character thinks that this will help you in the investigation. Yvonne was so meticulous and responsible, and in the end, her life ended in such a terrible way. The lady with silver hair thinks that something is wrong with her. She thinks that it may be some kind of déjà vu or fear of death. But the girl understands that it's okay, because she definitely won't die. Suddenly, the young lady hears some noise outside and gets up from her chair. And when they look out the window, they see that maid and her sister have finally arrived. The servants in the estate are whispering why the girl is so bundled up on such a hot day. The maid just escorts her sister and tells her to follow upstairs. But suddenly the servants of the estate begin to whisper among themselves. One of them claims that it looks like this is the same sister who has a skin disease, and most likely that's why she's dressed like that, and they also say she has terrible scars. But suddenly, someone tells the two girls to wait. It turns out to be Barden. He claims that he was told that there will be guests today and asks who they are. The maid greets the gentleman and claims that this is her sister Liana Rognell, who arrived at the invitation of the lady. Barden asks why her face is covered. Then the girl comes up and says that she is pleased to meet you. She claims her name is Liana Rognell. The girl says that she wears this mask for her skin disease. Then she takes off her mask and claims that it might be unpleasant for others. That's why she put it on, so they apologize for being rude. But Barden just gets sick, and then they start whispering out loud. Suddenly it's contagious. And the maid screams that this is not a contagious disease at all, and that the sister will soon be healthy. But the gossip only continues, and someone claims that the Duke didn't like the girl either. Barden says that this is not the case, and that the estate has just been uneasy lately, so he asked. But then, closing his mouth, he says that he'll probably go. The limited one claims that the gentleman is not in a good mood today, and usually he is not like that at all. She ties her sister's mask, and Liana says that this is a natural reaction, so it's okay. But then the girl invites her sister to continue on their way, because the mistress will be waiting. Heading down the corridor, the girl does not feel very well. She remembers her cousin, who asked if she could really become an heir, and the girl looks so disgusting. After all this, the father told the young lady that there was no need to be offended because he would provide for her, her sister and mother, so that they would have a place to live. Various people told the girl that she works very well, but visitors are not entirely comfortable. Others argued that appearance is a prerequisite. Someone claimed that Rognell Resch was an aristocratic surname and asked why the young lady wanted to work there, but then they argued that it wouldn't work out. The only ray of light in Liana's life was her sister. She claimed that she liked living with her mother and older sister, but she always felt guilty before Liana. The young lady is pulled out of her thoughts by her sister, and then the main character tells the girl not to stand there and to come in. Liana bows and says that she is glad to meet her mistress, and then introduces herself. She begins to remove her mask and states that the young lady may not be entirely pleasant, but to greet her without showing your face would be disrespectful. The main character is a little shocked by this. The lady with silver hair says that everything is more serious than she thought, and this is no good. The maid asks if she means that there is no more help, and Liana already wants to put the mask back on. But the main character tells her to remain without a mask and take off this cape because it's too hot in it. And Udell says to call the doctor there, and the maid immediately does so. The main character says that there is no need to waste time, so she will immediately get to the main thing. The girl asks to let Leon use her. After the young lady takes off her cape and mask, she picks up the contract and says that according to what is written there, and the lady with silver hair adds that Liana will be her secretary, and the girl also uses the effect of a sun source on her. Naturally, all this is paid for, and the girl will be observed by a doctor until she is completely healed. Then the maid comes into the room and says the lady has brought the doctor. The young lady asks how she did it so quickly, and the doctor claims that the young gentleman has a severe hangover, so he has been there since the morning. The main character says that he only drank 2 glasses, but then Liana turns to her. She tells the girl that there is no benefit for the mistress in the offer, and after all, she was deprived of her title and her family went bankrupt. So why is the lady so generous to them? But the girl Liana knew wouldn't help without a reason. But now she is ready not only to give away the source of the sun, but also wants to hire her as if she has another reason.